They left him to die like dead weight. Rank F. The weakest in the guild, the one they'd been laughing at for 2 years, and now, alone in a tunnel, he's killing a monster he's not supposed to defeat, not with strength, not with magic, just with ordinary rusty rebar and a mental formula. But let's rewind 30 minutes. The tunnel beneath the old power plant in Incheon smells of iron and ozone. Blue crystals flicker on the walls like cheap LEDs. Ha-joon stands alone. The team has gone deeper inside. Captain Park, Seong-woo, slapped him on the shoulder and said they'd be back soon. Ha-joon nodded. He always nods. 2 years in the Songmun Guild have taught him to nod at everything, at jokes about his backpack, at smirks, at how his F rank is pronounced just a little louder than necessary. 30 minutes, no one has returned. Communication cut off at the 8-minute mark. Ha-joon looks at his hands, cheap gloves from the store by the subway. His fingers are shaking. He thinks of one thing. If they eat him, his mom will be left alone. The insurance will cover 2 million won, enough for 3 months' rent and the funeral. All that will remain of him is an empty room with figurines on the shelf and an unpaid loan for a he isn't crying. He's smirking because suddenly he recognizes this place, a narrow corridor, blue light, one path forward, a closed door behind him. It's the tutorial dungeon, the classic structure of the first level. He'd seen it 100 times in the code when he worked at a game development studio in Pangyo. For 3 years, he pored over balance tables and tried to convince that a player who farms a single skill using a specific strategy would break the entire server economy by level 40. No one listened to him. The economy collapsed. He was fired. The standard biography of a Korean junior developer who burned out by the age of 24. And now this biography suddenly turned out to be the only thing he had. If this is a game, it has rules. And he knows the rules better than all those muscleheads with swords. Ha-joon takes a step forward. Another one. The darkness ahead is alive. Something is moving in it, something big. And then, right before his eyes, a blue, translucent screen flashes to life. Letters form a line that he reads 3 times before he believes it. Suitable user detected. System initialization. He blinks. The screen hangs in the air like a debugger window. The loading bar runs at the bottom. 90, 95, 100. A new window. Name. John Ha-joon, rank F, class, developer. Ha-joon laughs hoarsely and quietly, not because it's funny, but because he spent 3 years designing interfaces like this for virtual games, and now one of them is hanging right in front of him in reality, in the tunnel where he was left to die. The sound ahead grows louder. Stone cracks beneath something massive. The stone guardian emerges from the darkness, 3 meters of gray granite, arms as thick as a lamppost, eyes glowing a dim orange. A step, another step, the floor trembles. Any F-rank hunter would run. Ha-joon doesn't run. He sees what no one else sees. A window flashes above the monster's head. HP 4,200, physical defense 85%, magic defense 12. And at the bottom, a hidden stat in small print, core integrity. Drops by 8% on a critical hit to the right knee joint. Ha-joon reads the numbers. He looks at the floor. Debris from rebar, chunks of concrete, rusty rods. He picks one up. Long, heavy, sufficient. The guardian strides forward. Ha-joon steps back, not out of fear, out of calculation. He calculates route, speed, turn pattern. He steps back just enough for the monster to lose interest in him. 3 minutes later, the guardian turns and walks off into the darkness. Ha-joon sits on the floor, presses his back against the cold wall, and counts. First pass. 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Turn at the far wall. 3-second pause. Right foot placed wider. Knee open for exactly 1.5 seconds. Second, pass. Third, fifth, seventh. He sits and watches for 40 minutes. He memorizes every step, and suddenly he realizes the developer was too lazy to randomize the route. A classic mistake. He's seen this in every other project. On the 8th pass, Ha-joon stands up. He grabs the rebar. With both hands, he stands to the right of the turning point. He waits. Footsteps approach. The floor trembles. The guardian enters the zone. Right leg forward, knee bends. 1.5 seconds. Ha-joon drives the rod into the joint from bottom to top. With all his weight, his wrists crack, but the rod goes in. Core integrity -8%. The guard roars, falls to one knee. Ha-joon jumps back. His heart pounds in his temples. The monster reaches for him, but can't quite reach. Strike radius, 2.8 meters. Ha-joon stands at the 3-meter mark. He'd calculated that too. The guardian strikes at thin air. The rock behind him shatters into dust. Ha-joon waits. The monster stands up. It limps. The route has shifted, but the pattern remains. Ha-joon recalculates. New timing. New point. He pulls out the second rod. He strikes. -8. And again. And again. It takes 4 hours. For 4 hours, an F-rank hunter kills a D-rank monster with rusty rebar, not with strength, not with magic, not with talent, with a table. On the final blow, the guardian falls face first. The granite crumbles. From the center, a small orange crystal rolls out, a mana core. Ha-joon picks it up with trembling hands. A log flashes before his eyes. Damage 4,200, hits 47, weak point, hit rate 100%. A new line appears below. Level up. Stat point allocation available. Ha-joon stands over the shattered guardian. He's breathing heavily. His fingers are covered in blood, and for the first time in 3 years, he smiles genuinely. They're all playing the game. It's just that none of them read the developer's documentation, but he did because he wrote it. The mana crystal is warm. Ha-joon clutches it in his palm and feels a slight vibration run through his fingers. The stat allocation window hangs before his eyes. 3 free points. 5 stats. Strength, dexterity, stamina, intelligence, perception. Any normal hunter would put points into strength or into agility. Ha-joon puts all 3 into perception, not because he's smart, but because he knows how scaling works at early levels. Perception is his base stat. In the first 10 levels, the base stat gives a coefficient of 1. Strength gives 0.8. This means that 1 point in perception is now worth almost 2 points in strength. At level 20, the coefficients will even out. Then it will be time to level up the rest. Right now, he needs to see farther and more clearly. His perception radius expands from 5 meters to 8. Ha-joon closes his eyes and senses the space around him. The tunnel walls, cracks in the floor, small stones, and ahead, 7 meters away, another movement. Small. Quick. Not a guardian, something else. He opens his eyes and moves forward. The tunnel branches off. The left passage goes down. The right one leads straight ahead. A new window lights up above the fork. Dungeon analysis loaded. Level structure. A linear corridor with 1 branch. Left passage. Restroom. Monster spawn probability 0%. Right passage. Main route. 3 combat zones before the mini-boss. Ha-joon looks to the left. Restroom. Safe zone. Every dungeon has at least one of these, a place where the player can recover before the next wave. He turns left. The room turns out to be a small cave with a low ceiling. Moss covers the floor. In the corner, water seeps from a crack in the wall. It's warm, quiet, safe. Ha-joon sits down on the floor and, for the first time in an hour, allows himself to think. Not to calculate or analyze, just to think. He was abandoned. Park Seong-woo, his older sister Ji-hyun's former friend, the man who came to her funeral and held his mother's hand, the man who later came to their house and said he would look after his younger brother. For 2 years, Ha-joon believed him. For 2 years, he carried backpacks and calculated drop rates, thinking that this was his place, ballast on the team, useful ballast. And then, the dungeon turned out to be higher ranked than stated, and the captain made a decision. Ha-joon remembers the faces of those who went deeper. Park Seong-woo in front, behind him, Min-ho the tank, then Tae-jin the archer, then Soyon. Soyon turned around. She was the only one who turned around. Her mouth opened as if she wanted to say something, but Song-woo was already walking on, and she followed him. Ha-joon thought then that she wanted to tell him to hang in there. Now he thinks she wanted to say, "I'm sorry." He rubs his face with his hands. Enough. He can think about it later. Right now, he needs to survive. He opens the stats window and looks at his stats. Level 2, Strength 3, Agility 4, Stamina 5, Intelligence 7, Perception 14. Pathetic numbers. Absolutely pathetic. An average D-rank hunter has stats in the 30 to 40 range. C rank is 60 to 80. B rank is 100 and above. His best stat is 14, but he has something no one else does. He sees the formulas. He knows that strength isn't just strength. Every point of strength increases base damage by 2.4%. But only if agility is at least half of strength. Otherwise, the multiplier drops to 1.1. This formula is hidden from everyone. Hunters level up for years based on intuition. They invest points haphazardly. They create an imbalance for themselves that's impossible to fix later. But he sees every number, every coefficient, every threshold. Ha-joon pulls a pencil stub from his pocket and starts scribbling on the wall. A leveling chart. Levels 3 through 10, optimal distribution. Perception up to 20 at level 3, then dexterity up to 10, then stamina up to 12 for basic survivability. Leave strength alone until level 5. Raise intelligence to 10 at level 4 because at level 10, intelligence will reach the threshold to unlock the second level calibration module. He scribbles for half an hour. The wall's covered in numbers. From the outside, it looks like a madman's scribbles. To him, it's a road map from hell. He stands up. He drinks water from a crack in the wall. The water is cold and clear. He checks his status. Health is restored to 40%. That's enough. He leaves the restroom and turns right. The main route, 3 combat zones. In the first, 2 small guardians await him, 1,800 HP each, 60% armor, 20 magic defense. Same weak point. Knee joints. But 2 at once. Ha-joon thinks he doesn't have the speed to run between them, no strength to take down 2 in a row, but he has a 3-meter wide tunnel, and the guardians are 1.5 meters wide. They can't walk side by side, only one after the other. He stands in the narrowest part of the passage. He waits. The first guardian appears from around the bend. The second follows. Just as planned, they're walking in single file. Ha-joon takes on the first one. Same routine, patience, count. A strike to the right knee as he turns. While the first one limps, the second can't get past him. The tunnel is too narrow. Ha-joon strikes the first one again. And again. The first one crumbles in 20 minutes. By then, the second one is already stuck behind the body, and Ha-joon finishes him off in another 15. 2 mana crystals. Level raised to 3. 3 points. Perception up to 17, dexterity up to 7, as planned. He moves on. Second combat zone. 4 shadow parasites, small, fast, 600 HP each, 0 armor, but their speed is 3 times that of the guardians, and they attack in a group. Ha-joon stands at the entrance to the zone and reads their stats. Speed 6.1 meters per second. Damage per attack 45. His current health is 380. 8 hits and he's dead. He can't afford a single hit, but in the stats, there's a line that makes him smile. Aggression, trigger, movement within line of sight radius, 4 meters. His perception range is 8 meters. He sees them before they see him. Ha-joon picks up 4 stones from the floor. He throws the first one into the far corner. The parasites rush toward the sound. He approaches from the other side. He strikes the nearest one with a stick on its thin body. HP 600 minus 120. Another strike. Another. The parasite crumbles. The rest turn. Ha-joon is already running toward the zone's exit. They give chase. He steps outside the zone's boundary. The parasites stop. They return to their spawn points. Zone-bound, classic mechanics. Mobs don't chase beyond their territory. Ha-joon repeats the trick 3 times. Lure. Kill one. Run out. It takes an hour. Dirty. Slow. Not heroic, but effective. 4 crystals. Level 4. Points in intelligence. Up to 10. Second level calibration module unlocked. A new line in the interface. Calibration. Advanced analysis. Now he sees not just stats, but also the relationships between them. Scaling graphs. Inflection points. Caps. It's like gaining access to the source code after working exclusively with the interface for a month. The third conflict zone is empty. Ha-joon enters it and sees only an empty hall with a high ceiling and a stone throne in the center. There's no one on the throne, but a window hangs above it. Mini-boss, status, sleeping, awakening condition, the presence of a living being within a 3-meter radius of the throne for 10 seconds. Ha-joon stands at the entrance. He looks at the throne. He looks at his stats. He looks at the clock in the interface. He's been in the dungeon for 6 hours. Health at 60%. Stamina at its limit. He sits down right on the floor at the entrance to the hall. He doesn't go to the throne. He doesn't wake the boss. He eats the last energy bar from his pocket. He drinks water from his canteen and begins to sketch a new table on the floor. His hands tremble with exhaustion. His fingers are worn down to the bone. But his mind is clear. Clearer than ever. For the first time in 3 years, he isn't bored. For the first time in 3 years, he is doing what he was created to do. He breaks the game. Ha-joon sleeps for 2 hours on the stone floor at the entrance to the boss's hall, not because he wants to, because the calibration shows stamina regenerates at 15% per hour at complete rest. 2 hours give 30%, plus the current 60, that's 90. Enough for a fight, not enough for a mistake. He wakes up from the cold. His back hurts. His neck won't turn. His hands are swollen from being hit with rebar. He looks at them and thinks that in the office in Pangyo, the heaviest thing he ever lifted was a coffee mug. Now he has calluses on top of calluses and blood under his nails. He stands up, stretches. He opens the boss window. Mini-boss, Granite Guardian. HP 8,400. Physical armor 70%. Magic defense 35%. Attack 180. Speed 3.8 meters per second. Skills: Stone Fist. Cooldown 12 seconds. Damage 340. Area of effect 2 meters. Seismic Strike. Cooldown 30 seconds. Deals 200 damage to all targets within a 5-meter radius. Cannot be dodged while standing on the ground. Hidden stat, regeneration, 2% HP per minute if no damage is taken for over 20 seconds. Ha-joon reads and calculates. With his current damage of about 120 per hit and the boss's 70% armor, the net damage will be 36 per hit. The boss's HP is 8,400. That's 234 hits, with 1 hit every 12 seconds between the boss's punches. That's 47 minutes of continuous combat, plus regeneration, plus the seismic strike, which he cannot dodge. The straightforward approach isn't working. He needs a different one. Ha-joon sits down and thinks, not as a fighter, as a developer. Why did the designer put a stone throne in the hall? It's not decoration. There are no decorations in dungeons. Everything is functional. He looks at the throne. Height, 1.5 meters. Width, 2 meters. Material, stone different from the floor. He moves closer, not to the throne, to the wall next to it. He looks up. The hall ceiling is 6 meters high. There are stalactites on the ceiling, long ones, sharp. He shifts his gaze back to the throne, then to the boss, then to the ceiling, and he starts to smile. Seismic blast. 200 damage to everyone within a 5-meter radius. Everyone, including the stalactites. Ha-joon picks up a rock from the floor. He holds it up to test its weight. He throws it at the nearest stalactite. The rock hits its mark. The stalactite sways but doesn't fall. It's very sturdy. But if the boss strikes the floor with his seismic blast, the vibration will travel up the walls. The ceiling won't hold. The stalactites will fall. Each one weighs about 30 kilograms. From a height of 6 meters, that's a blow that ignores armor. Pure physical damage from mass and gravity. Armor won't protect you from that. Ha-joon counts the number of stalactites above the throne area. 14. Average weight is about 30 kilograms. Fall height is 6 meters. Impact speed. Estimated damage. Enough. If the boss uses seismic strike while standing beneath them, his own ability will be his undoing. A classic bug. Mechanics that harm the boss himself. Ha-joon has seen this in dozens of games. Developers forget that their own projectiles interact with the environment. The plan is simple. Enter the activation zone, wake the boss, dodge the stone fist, run back to the throne, force the boss to approach, stand under the stalactites, wait for seismic strike, jump back at the last moment. The stalactites fall on the boss. Simple. On paper. In practice, he has 1 shot and 0 margin for error. Ha-joon enters the hall. 3 meters to the throne, 10 seconds. He counts in his head. The floor beneath the throne trembles. Stone cracks. From a figure twice the size of a normal guardian rises from beneath the throne. The granite guardian. Its eyes burn red. Its mouth opens and steam pours out. It raises its fist. The stone fist, 12 seconds, 2-meter radius. Ha-joon runs to the right. The fist strikes the floor. Stone shatters. Shards cut his face. It hurts, but he's already outside the radius. 12 seconds. Ha-joon runs toward the far wall, not toward the throne. First, he needs to lure the boss into position. The guardian follows him, heavy, fast, faster than he expected. 3.8 meters per second is almost the running speed of an adult. Ha-joon weaves between the debris on the floor. The guardian doesn't weave. He goes straight, smashing everything in his path. A second stone fist. Ha-joon dodges to the right. Not fast enough. The shockwave throws him against the wall. His back slams into the stone. It knocks the wind out of him. HP minus 85. From 380 to 295. 3 more of those and it's over. He gets up, runs toward the area under the stalactites. The guardian follows him. Ha-joon stops right under the largest cluster, 14 of them above his head. He waits. The guardian moves closer, 5 meters, 4. Ha-joon looks at the cooldown timer above his head. Seismic blast. Ready in 8 seconds. The guardian raises both hands. Stone fist. Ha-joon dodges. 7, 6, 5. The guardian turns toward him. Ha-joon stands at the edge of the 5-meter zone, right on the border. If he's off by half a meter, he'll be hit. 3, 2, 1. The guardian strikes the floor with both hands. Seismic blast. The ground shakes. A shockwave travels through the stone. Ha-joon jumps backward with the last ounce of strength in his legs. The shockwave passes beneath his feet in midair and strikes the wall behind him. The vibration travels upward. The ceiling cracks. Stalactites break one after another. 14 stone spears fly down. The guardian stands directly beneath them. He looks up too slowly. The first stalactite pierces his left shoulder. The second hits his head. Third, fourth, fifth. A stone rain. The guardian falls to his knees. His HP plummets. 8,400, 6,200, 4,100, 2,800, 1,400. The last stalactite, the largest one, hits the very center of his back. The guardian crumbles. Stone dust fills the hall. Ha-joon lies on the floor by the wall. He's breathing heavily. His whole body aches. His right shoulder won't move, possibly a fracture. The battle log flashes before his eyes. Total damage dealt personally, 288. Total damage from the environment, 8,112. Percentage of personal contribution to the victory, 100. The system does not count the stalactites as separate participants. It counts the one who planned it. Experience gained. Level increased. 5th. 6th. 2 levels at once. 6 free points. Ha-joon distributes them according to the table on the wall. Stamina up to 12. Strength up to 7. Dexterity up to 10. He lies on the floor and waits for his health to recover to at least half. A trophy lies nearby on a rock, a large mana crystal the size of a fist, a mini-boss drop, and something else, a small stone token with a rune, an artifact. Ha-joon picks it up and reads the description. The Guardian's Seal. When activated, it creates a stone barrier with a 1-meter radius for 15 seconds. Cooldown, 5 minutes. His first artifact. The first piece of equipment he didn't get from the corporate store or from someone else's hands. He earned it himself. Ha-joon clenches the token in his fist and thinks of his mom, about how she calls every morning and asks if he's eaten, about how the debt collectors come to her on Thursdays and knock on the door, about how she says everything's fine every time and lies every time. He stands up. His shoulder shoots with pain. He walks further into the depths of the dungeon. 9 more days ahead. Hundreds more monsters ahead. Ahead lies the boss of this dungeon, about whom he knows nothing yet. But for the first time in his life, he isn't afraid. He's curious. Days in the dungeon have no morning or evening, only the blue light of crystals and the silence between battles. Ha-joon keeps track of time by the system's internal clock. Day 3. Level 9. Perception, 24. Reading, radius 15 meters. He senses monsters 2 turns ahead and knows their stats before he sees their bodies. This changes everything. Before, he was a man with a stick who waited 40 minutes for a single strike. Now, he is a strategist who sees the entire battlefield. In 3 days, he has cleared 4 levels of the dungeon, each more difficult than the last. Stone Guardians gave way to Shadow Hounds. They gave way to crystal weavers who shot icy needles from a distance. Ha-joon adapted to each one. Not with brute force, with strategy. He herded the hounds into narrow passages where their speed became a hindrance. He lured the weavers to water sources because their ice needles froze upon hitting the water, creating barriers he used as cover. Every fight was messy, long. Every fight left him with new bruises and scrapes. His body ached so much that in the mornings he would just lie there for the first 10 minutes, waiting until he could bend his fingers. But his stats were rising, slowly, right on schedule. Day 5. Level 12. He unlocked a new system module, Skill Descriptions. Before, he could only see stats. Now he sees full descriptions of abilities, cooldowns, trigger conditions, hidden synergies. He tested the module on a crystal weaver and discovered that it had a passive skill not listed in the visible parameters. Icy resonance. If there are 3 or more weavers within a 10-meter radius, their damage increases by 40% each. That is precisely why groups of weavers were more dangerous than solo players, not linearly, but exponentially. No hunter in the world knew this. They simply noticed that groups hit harder and attributed it to the dungeon's rank. Ha-joon committed this to memory. It'll come in handy. Everything will come in handy. Day 8, level 16. His body had changed. Not radically, not like in the movies where the hero wakes up with muscles overnight, but his arms had grown stronger. His legs were faster. He could run 200 meters without getting out of breath. He could swing rebar with enough force to shatter stone. It was strange. Just a week ago, he couldn't do 20 push-ups. The system didn't give him strength directly. It showed him where to focus his effort, which muscles to train, which movements to repeat, how much to sleep, how much to eat. Every hour of his physical training yielded maximum results because not a single effort was wasted. It's like the difference between a runner who just runs and a runner who has a personal trainer with real-time access to his biometrics. Day 10. Level 19. He stands before the gates of the final hall. The gates are made of black stone, 4 meters high. They bear runes he cannot read. Above the gates is an analysis window. The final boss. Namson is to discuss kawaii, indik analfrats. Oh, more upper boris across absctandois abredits my utilkiperaneg, ani dai, and chase right and sprich, a canadartical corset sign to I tilly chmishmion dean croini. Rank CMHP Mash 32,000. Physical defense 55%, magic defense 60%, speed 5.2 meters per second faster than Ha-joon, significantly, skills 8 in total. Ha-joon reads each one 3 melee attacks, 2 ranged attacks, 1 regeneration buff, 1 summoning of reinforcements, and the last one. Rage phase. Activates when HP drops below 20%. All stats are doubled for 60 seconds. Ha-joon reads the description of Rage Phase twice. Then he sits on the floor in front of the gate and thinks for an hour. He doesn't have the strength to break through 32,000 HP, even taking weak spots into account. He doesn't have the speed to dodge a creature moving 1.5 times faster than him. He has no team, no healer, no tank, no DPS. He's alone with his gear against a C-rank boss. Any reasonable person would turn back, but there's no turning back. The entrance gates closed on the first day. The only way out is through the final boss. Ha-joon sits and thinks, not like a fighter. Like a developer, he runs through his head everything he's learned over the past 10 days, all the mechanics, all the patterns, and he finds it. Reinforcement summon. The archon summons 2 stone guardians every 3 minutes. The guardians exist for 90 seconds and then crumble. The guardian's HP is 2,000. That's less than the guardians outside. They're weaker, but they're tied to the archon. They protect him, which means the system considers them part of him. Ha-joon opens the battle log from previous fights. He searches for a specific line. He finds it. Damage from friendly fire. When the crystal weaver accidentally hit another weaver with a needle, the damage went through completely. No reduction from armor. Friendly damage ignores defense. Ha-joon looks at the Archon's Guardian's description. Attack 120. Stone Fist. 2-meter radius. 8-second cooldown. 120 damage without armor. Every 8 seconds. 2 guardians, 240 damage in 8 seconds over the guardian's 90-second lifespan. That's 2,700 pure damage to the archon if the archon summons them every 3 minutes and they last a minute and a half. That means each cycle deals 2,700 damage. 11 cycles and the archon is dead. Total time, 33 minutes. If everything goes perfectly, there's one thing to do. Make the guardians attack their master. How? Ha-joon stands up. He opens the guardian's description again. Aggression, trigger, nearest hostile target. Targeting logic. Attack the nearest enemy. If there are no enemies, follow the master. Ha-joon smiles. Follow the master. This means that if he stands right behind the archon, the guardians will go after him, right through the archon. And if they use Stone Fist at that moment, the archon will end up within the radius of effect. Simple math, simple geometry. A simple mistake by the designer who didn't specify an exception for friendly fire. Ha-joon stands in front of the gate, checks his equipment, a rebar, the guardian's seal, 3 mana crystals for emergency restoration, nothing else. He pushes the gate. It opens silently. The hall beyond is enormous. The ceiling is lost in the darkness. In the center stands a figure of black stone. The obsidian archon, 4 meters tall, 4 arms, eyes like 2 red suns. He turns his head toward Ha-joon. The floor shakes. The battle begins. The archon moves first. 4 arms rise simultaneously. Ha-joon sees the skill window. Obsidian barrage. Cooldown 15 seconds. 4 black stone projectiles, 160 damage each. Total damage, 640. His maximum HP is currently 620. 1 full volley, and he's dance. 不知道这样不看的你脑绕，早给个小不靠的 stout. Dancing in the night cards key, ridiculous down get under church around the cow hunt on Ralph. 到一 Jeffries 这个 harshes and 听到sind ear the call but good way. The projectiles strike the floor where he was standing a second ago. The stone explodes. Shrapnel cuts his cheek. Blood. He runs in an arc along the wall. The archon turns, slower than expected, 5.2 meters per second in a straight line. But the turn takes a second and a half. Ha-joon takes note. The next obsidian barrage in 15 seconds. Ha-joon counts. 10, 11. At the 13th second, he abruptly changes direction. He runs straight toward the archon, not away from him, toward him. The archon fires a volley. 4 projectiles fly toward where Ha-joon would have been if he'd kept running in an arc. But he's already at the boss's feet. Dead zone. The projectiles fly over his head. Ha-joon slips between the archon's legs and stands behind him. Obsidian barrage is recharging. 15 seconds. The archon raises his lower pair of arms. New skill, crush, a strike on the ground within a 3-meter radius. 10-second cooldown. 200 Ha-joon activates the guardian's seal. A stone barrier rises around him. The archon's fist strikes the barrier. The barrier cracks, but holds. 15 seconds of protection. Enough. 3 minutes into the fight, the archon uses summon. The floor on both sides of him cracks. 2 stone guardians rise from the cracks. Ha-joon was waiting for this. He stands 4 meters behind the archon. The guardians see him. He is the nearest hostile target. They head toward him, right past the archon, just as he calculated. The first guardian approaches the archon from behind. The archon stands between them. The guardian raises his fist. Stone fist. 2-meter radius. The archon is within range. Impact. The fist strikes the floor. A shockwave ripples through the archon's area. Ha-joon checks the boss's HEP. 32,000, 31,880 minus 120. Pure damage, no armor reduction. It's working. A second guardian approaches from the other side. Same attack. 31,760. Ha-joon maneuvers behind the archon. He keeps his distance from the guardians. He positions the archon to take every hit. It's like conducting an orchestra of 3 sick musicians who all want to kill you. The first cycle ends. The guardians disperse after 90 seconds. Archon's HP is 29,300, 2,700 lost. As planned, Ha-joon runs away from the archon across the hall. 3 minutes until the next summon. 3 minutes in which he must survive against a 4-armed monster alone. The archon is faster than him, stronger. He needs to use his only advantage. He sees every cooldown, every skill, every second of recharge. He dances between attacks, obsidian barrage, dodge to the left, crush, jump back, whip strike from the third arm, slipping underfoot, every time by a hair, every time on the edge. At the 7-minute mark, he takes a hit. The whip grazes his left thigh, HP minus 130, from 620 to 490, pain like a hammer blow. His leg goes numb. He limps. Second summoning cycle. The guards rise. Ha-joon stands behind the archon again. The guards strike. 2,700 damage. Archon's HP 26,600. Third cycle. Fourth. Ha-joon counts and dodges, counts and dodges. His body moves on autopilot. His mind works like a processor. 2 streams simultaneously. First stream, physics, run, jump, dodge, don't die. Second stream, mathematics. The boss's HP, skill timers, the guardian's position, attack angle, seal, cooldown. At the 20-minute mark, he takes the second hit. An obsidian projectile strikes his right shoulder, HP minus 160, from 490 to 330. His shoulder cracks. His arm goes limp. He breaks the mana crystal with his teeth. HP is restored by 150, 480. That's enough. At the 25th minute, the archon's HP drops below 50%, 15,800. The archon roars. The sound makes Ha-joon's ears ring. Attacks become faster, not by the formula, just faster, a hidden rage buff. Ha-joon didn't see it in the description. The system refreshes the window, the desperation buff. When HP is below 50%, attack speed increases by 20%. Not critical, but the window between dodges is narrowing. Now he doesn't have a second to react. He has 0. 8. At the 30-minute mark, the archon's HP is 9,200. Ha-joon exhales. 3 more cycles, maybe 4. He's broken his second mana crystal, HP 400. The last crystal is in his pocket. The 11th cycle begins. The guardians rise. Ha-joon stands behind the archon, his usual position. The guardians strike. Archon's HP is 6,500. And then something happens that hasn't happened in any previous cycle. The archon turns around, not toward Ha-joon, toward his guardians. All 4 arms rise. A new skill, absorption. The guardians shudder. Their bodies crack. Stone flakes off them and flies toward the archon. It is drawn into his body. The guardians crumble instantly. The archon's HP, 6,500. 7,200. 8,000. He devoured his guardians and restored 1,500 HP. Ha-joon stands and watches. This skill wasn't in the description. A hidden skill activates when HP is below 20%. No, at 6,500 out of 32,000, that's 20.3%. He was just above the threshold, so the skill activates when approaching the threshold, and below 20% it'll be Rage Phase, doubling of all stats. Ha-joon does the math. If the archon devours the guardians every time his HP is low, the strategy falls apart. He can't kill the boss through ally damage if the boss eats his allies. We need another plan right now, in the middle of the battle. The archon turns toward him. His eyes burn brighter. 4 arms rise. Ha-joon runs. He thinks on the run, devouring heals. But the guardians disappear. So there's no ally damage in this cycle. -3 minutes. The next summon is in 3 minutes. The archon will summon the guardians again and devour them again if HP is low. A closed loop. The archon can't die from this strategy. He'll just keep eating and regenerating if his HP doesn't drop below the threshold fast enough. Ha-joon calculates on the fly. Alliance damage per cycle, 2,700. Devouring restores 1,500. Net damage per cycle, 1,200. With 8,000 HP, he needs another 6 or 7 cycles. That's another 20 minutes. He has 1 mana crystal, 400 HP. He won't last 20 minutes. We need to increase damage per cycle. We need the guardians to deal more damage before the archon absorbs them. Ha-joon thinks. The guardians last 90 seconds. Absorption was used at the 60-second mark. 30 seconds until absorption. In 30 seconds, 2 guardians deal 900 damage, minus 1,500 from the absorption. Total, the boss heals for 600 per cycle. The strategy didn't just fail, it became a losing proposition. Ha-joon runs through the hall and feels fear for the first time in 10 days. Real fear, cold, not abstract, concrete. He could die here, right now, in 10 minutes, and no one will know how. Mom will wait for a call that won't come. He clenches his teeth, thinks faster. Absorption triggers when HP falls below a certain threshold. If HP stays above the threshold, the archon won't eat the guardians, so he needs to keep the boss's HP above 20% until the very last moment. Deal damage some other way, and only then unleash everything at once. Another way. How? He has armor and 1 artifact and the body of a level 19 hunter against a C-rank boss. Ha-joon dodges the volley, rolls away, looks at the armor in his hands, then at the boss, then at the armor again, and he sees it in the battle log from previous skirmishes when he struck the guardians in the knee joint. The damage was multiplied by 3.2 due to a critical point. His base damage is now 40, multiplied by 128. Without armor on the critical point, that's pure damage. The archon has a critical point. It has to. Every boss has at least one. He opens the archon's full stats window, scrolls through the hidden stats, and finds it. The joint between the upper and lower arms. Ligament integrity, critical multiplier 4.0, but the joint is 2.5 meters high. Ha-joon is 1.76 meters tall. He can't reach it unless the boss bends over. When he bends over, during crush, when he pounds his fist on the floor, for a second and a half, his torso leans forward. The joint drops to 1.8 meters, almost at the level of his outstretched arm. Ha-joon stops running. He stands in the center of the hall. He waits. The archon walks toward him, raises his lower arms. Crush. Ha-joon stands, doesn't move. Fists fly downward. At the last moment, he takes a step forward, not backward, forward. Fists strike the floor behind him. The shockwave pushes him forward, straight toward the archon's hull. The joint is at a height of 1.8 meters. Ha-joon strikes. The rebar enters the gap between the upper and lower arms. Critical hit, 160 damage. Pure. The archon roars, retreats. Ha-joon pulls out the rod. He stands, waits for the next crush. 10-second cooldown. His plan has changed. No more guardians, no more allied damage. He'll strike on his own. 160 damage per hit, every 10 seconds. Archon's HP is 8,000. 50 hits, 8 minutes, if he doesn't miss a single hit from the boss, if his HP holds out, if his body doesn't give out. He strikes again, 7,840, again 7,680. The archon summons the guardians. Ha-joon ignores them. He hits the boss hard. The guardians hit Ha-joon. HP down to 90. He breaks the last crystal. HP 460. He hits again. 7,520. The guardians disperse after 90 seconds. Ha-joon hits and strikes. At the 3-minute mark, the archon's HP is 6,080. The archon summons the guardians again. HP is above 20%. No absorption. The guardians strike Ha-joon. HP minus 90. 280. He dodges the volley. Takes a glancing blow from the whip, minus 60, 200 to 20, strikes at the joint, 5,920. At the 5-minute mark, his HP is 140. Archon HP 4,800. Rage threshold at 6,400. No, at 20%. 6,400. Boss HP 4,800. That's 15%. Below 20. Rage phase. Archon explodes in red light. All stats are doubled. Rage is at 10.4. Crush damage is 560. Ha-joon looks at the numbers and realizes 1 hit and he's dead. 1 touch, anyone. Dead. 60 seconds of rage. 60 seconds during which he cannot take a single point of damage. But the archon also leans in for a crush every 10 seconds. 6 hits, 960 damage, 4,800 minus 960, 3,840. Not enough, but during rage, the critical multiplier increases. The system shows it. The critical zone expands during rage. Multiplier 5.0 instead of 4. Damage per hit 200. 6 hits, 1,200. 4,800 minus 1,200. 3,600. Not enough. Need more. Need to hit more often. Crush cooldown 10 seconds. But during rage, attack speed is doubled. Cooldown 5 seconds, 12 hits in 60 seconds. 2,400, 4,800 minus 2,400, 2,400, still not enough. Ha-joon runs across the hall. The archon is after him. Faster, much faster. Volley, dodge, whip, roll. 5 seconds have passed. Crush. Ha-joon strikes. 4,600. Another 5 seconds. Crush. Strike. 4,400. He counts 60 seconds of rage. After that, the boss slows down, weakens. After effect. There has to be an after effect. Rage never comes for free in balanced systems. He opens the description of rage on the fly and sees a line he missed earlier. After the end of the rage phase. Stun. 10 seconds. All stats reduced by 50%. 10 seconds. 10 free hits on a stunned boss with half armor. Armor 55%, minus 50% of 55. Total 27.5%. His damage to a critical point, ignoring armor, is 200. With 27.5% armor, net damage is 145. 10 hits. 1,450. Plus damage during the rage phase, 2,400. Total, 3,850. Archon's HP at the start of Rage is 4,800. 4,800 minus from 3,850. 950. Not enough. 950 HI. Ha-joon runs and counts and dodges, and his heart is beating so fast that he can feel his pulse in his eyes. 950 HP. He needs to deal another 950 damage on top of the plane. Guards. The guards the Archon summoned during Rage. They're still alive. He summoned them 2 minutes ago. They've lasted 30 seconds. 60 left. They're hitting Ha-joon, but if he stands behind the boss, a familiar maneuver. In 30 seconds, Rage will end. The Archon will be stunned. The Guardians will hit him. 3 hits during 10 seconds of stun. 360 pure damage. 950 minus 360. 590 plus 10 hits from Ha-joon. 1,450 total. 4,210. More than 4,800. No, he was wrong. He needs to recalculate, taking into account the damage already dealt. The Archon's HP right now, he's looking 3,800. He's already taken 1,000 during Rage, 3,800 left. 10 seconds of stun, 1,450 from him. 360 from the Guardians, 1,810. 3,800 minus 1,810, 1,990. Too much. He needs to deal another 1,990 damage in the remaining 30 seconds of Rage. 6 hits in a row. 1,200, 3,800 minus 1,200, 2,600. Then the stun. 1,810. 2,600 minus 1,810. 790. The boss will have 790 HP left. Ha-joon grits his teeth and runs, and then he remembers. The Guardian's seal, the stone barrier, he used it at the start of the fight. 5-minute cooldown. The fight has been going on for 30 minutes. It's been ready for a while. The barrier doesn't deal damage, but it's made of stone, heavy stone. If he creates the barrier directly above the point of contact at the moment of stun, the barrier will fall. An artifact stone is heavier than a regular one. Base fall damage. Ha-joon doesn't know the exact numbers, but it's better than nothing. 30 seconds of Rage are running out. The Archon freezes, the red light fades, the boss's body shudders. Stun. 10 seconds. Ha-joon rushes toward him, strikes the joint. 1, 2, 3. The guards strike the Archon's back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. HP is dropping. 2,600. 2,100, 1,800, 1,400, 1,800. The 10th strike, 650. The guards scatter. Time's up. The Archon begins to stir. 650 HP. Ha-joon raises his hand bearing the seal. He activates the artifact, but not on the ground. He presses his hand against the joint between the Archon's arms and creates a barrier right inside. The stone expands into the crevice. It bursts the joint from the inside. This isn't a strike. It's a breach. The framework breaks inside the joint. The Archon roars. HP 650. 400. 200. The stone crushes him from within. Critical damage. Continuous. The Archon falls. The obsidian shatters. The body crumbles. Black dust settles on the floor. Silence. Ha-joon stands in the middle of the hall. His arms hang like whips. His right shoulder doesn't work. His left leg is numb. HP 80 out of 620. Lines appear before his eyes. Final boss defeated. Dungeon cleared. User rank updated. FDCB. In 2 weeks, he has traveled a path that takes an ordinary hunter 5 years, not because he is strong, but because he knows the rules. And at the bottom of the screen, a new message: hidden artifact detected, awaiting retrieval. Ha-joon takes a step toward the center of the hall. Where the archon stood, a small black cube now lies, perfectly smooth, perfectly black. He picks it up. The description lights up. Core of the Zero Dungeon, bound to the user, cannot be transferred. Function, unknown. Ha-joon looks at the cube, then at the door in the far wall of the hall. The door is open. Behind it, light, real light, daylight. He walks toward the door, steps out into the light. The sun is so blinding, he shields his eyes with his hand. The air smells of gasoline and rain. He's standing in a vacant lot next to an old power plant in Incheon. Concrete fences and wet asphalt surround him. 2 weeks ago, he walked in here as deadweight. Now he walks out as a B-rank hunter with an artifact that shouldn't exist. He pulls out his phone. The battery is at 2%. He dials a number. Mom picks up after the first ring. Her voice trembles. She asks where he is. He says he's coming home. She starts to cry. Ha-joon stands on the wet asphalt, listening to his mother cry, and thinks. 2 million won in insurance from the association, an empty room with figurines. That's how it was supposed to end. It didn't end. He walks toward the bus stop. A black cube in his pocket. A blue interface in his eyes. Behind him, an underground world that no longer exists. Ahead, the rest of the world. Incheon greets him with rain and the smell of fried chicken from the stall across the street. Ha-joon stands at the bus stop in a torn jacket with dried blood on the sleeves, waiting for the bus. People give him a wide berth. He looks like a homeless man after a fight. He is, in fact, after a fight. Only the fight lasted 2 weeks. The bus arrives in 12 minutes. Ha-joon sits by the window. His phone is dead. The system interface flickers at the edge of his vision, but he minimizes all windows. He doesn't need numbers right now. Right now, he just needs to get home and see his mom. The ride from the power plant to their apartment in the old part of Incheon takes 40 minutes. Ha-joon looks out the window and counts the days. 14. 2 weeks without a call, without a message. Mom must have called everyone. The association, the police, the guild, Songmun, Park Song-woo. Ha-joon clenches his fists, not out of anger, out of something colder than anger. They're gone. They left him like bait at the entrance. The captain, who had both promised his dead sister Ji-hyun that he would look after her brother, has thrown him into a dungeon that turned out to be 4 ranks higher than stated. And now that man is either sitting in the guild office writing a report on the loss of a trainee or has already received insurance money for his presumed death. The bus stops. Ha-joon gets off. He climbs the stairs to the 4th floor. The apartment door is shabby. The lock sticks, as always. He turns the key. The door opens. Mom is standing in the hallway, a small woman in a bathrobe with dark circles under her eyes. She looks at him and doesn't move for 3 seconds, and then her face breaks. She rushes toward him and hugs him so tightly that Ha-joon's ribs crack. She's crying. She pounds her fists against his chest. She says he's an idiot, that she almost died, that she called the association every day, that they told her to wait, that Park Seong-woo came once and said there had been an accident and that the team had done everything possible. Ha-joon listens. He stands there and listens. Park Seong-woo came, so he returned from the dungeon. So the team survived. They just left without him and exited through another exit, or the dungeon let them out when it closed. It doesn't matter. They survived, and they wrote him off. Mom leads him to the kitchen. She sets a bowl of ramen in front of him. He eats. And she sits across from him, watching him and occasionally wiping her eyes with her sleeve. Ha-joon finishes eating. He gets up. He goes to his room. It's small, a desk with a computer, a shelf with anime figurines, a bed that creaks. He lies down and falls asleep instantly. He sleeps for 14 hours. He wakes up at noon the next day. His body aches, but less so now. A B-rank hunter's regeneration works differently than an F-rank's. Before, a bruise would take a week to heal. Now, 2 days. He sits up in bed and opens the system interface. User status: John Ha-joon, level 22, rank B, but a B rank in the system and a B rank in the association are two different things. The association assigns ranks based on the results of official testing. His last test was a year and a half ago. Result F. To the world, he's still an F-rank hunter, a bearer of a useless ability. Dead weight. He needs to retake the test, but not right away. Other things first. Ha-joon picks up his phone. It's charged. 17 missed calls from his mom. 3 from the Songman Guild number, 1 message from Soyon. He opens the message. The text is short. Soyon writes that she's glad he's alive, that she didn't know the dungeon would close, that she's sorry. Ha-joon reads it 3 times. He closes it. He doesn't reply. Not now. He opens his browser and looks up prices for materials from D and C rank monsters. Mana crystals from Stone Guardians. 300,000 won each. He has 9 of them, 2.7 million. A crystal from a mini-boss, 1.2 million. Obsidian Archon's core. He doesn't know the price. There aren't any like that on the market. But similar materials from C-rank bosses go for 5 to 15 million won. Total, about 20 million won, maybe more. Ha-joon looks at the numbers. 20 million. His father left us with 30 million in debt. The debt collectors come on Thursdays. Mom says every time that she'll pay next week. 20 million won't cover the entire debt, but it will cover 2/3, and it will give us some breathing room. He goes to the kitchen. Mom is washing the dishes. Ha-joon sits down at the table and says he needs to sell the materials from the dungeon. Mom turns around. She looks at him. She asks what materials. He takes mana crystals out of his backpack. 9 blue stones, each the size of a golf ball. They glow in his palms. Mom looks at them, then at him. Her hands stop shaking for the first time in 2 weeks. Ha-joon says they're moving. Not right now, soon. But first, the debts. Mom is silent. Then she sits down on a chair and covers her face with her hands. She isn't crying. She just sits like that for a minute. Then she takes her hands away and says, "Dinner will be at 7. Ha-joon nods. He goes back to his room. He needs a plan. Not a battle plan, a business plan. Monster materials are sold through the association's auctions or through private brokers. The auction takes a 15% commission, but the prices are higher. Brokers take less but lowball the valuation. Ha-joon opens the auction site. Registration requires confirmation of hunter rank. His rank is F. With rank F, he can sell materials up to E. Deus and C rank crystals require a seller of the corresponding rank. Protection against theft. An F rank hunter cannot legally possess C rank materials because he cannot obtain them. Theoretically, he needs to be recertified. Tomorrow, Ha-joon opens the association's website. Registration for testing. The earliest date is in a week. Comprehensive evaluation. Physical tests. Mana measurement, ability assessment, assignment of a new rank. He signs up. Ha-joon, current rank F, request for recertification. Reason, improved metrics. A week's wait, 7 days. Ha-joon closes his laptop and thinks. 7 days he can use. Training, calibration, optimization of his remaining stats. His system shows a precise growth chart. Level 22 is B rank in strength, but his physical body hasn't caught up with the numbers yet. 2 weeks in the dungeon gave him the stats, but the muscles of the gloves and the armor aren't real weapons or real techniques. He needs to train his body so it matches his level. He starts the next morning, 5 in the morning, the park near his house, running. Push-ups, pull-ups on the bar. The system displays the optimal program, number of reps, rest time between sets, body angle for each exercise to maximize activation of the target muscle groups, real-time calibration. Ha-joon trains like a machine, not because he has an iron will, but because he sees the progress bar above each exercise. Strength plus 0.3, agility plus 0.1, stamina plus 0.2. It's like playing an RPG where every push-up grants experience. It's impossible to stop when you see the numbers rising. 3 days pass. Ha-joon runs in the mornings. He trains in the afternoons. In the evenings, he reads everything he can find about the association's ranking system. On the 4th day, debt collectors come to his mother's house. Thursday, Ha-joon is home. He opens the door. 2 men in cheap suits. One is fat, the other is skinny. The fat one starts the standard spiel about the debt, interest, and deadlines. Ha-joon listens for 3 seconds. Then he says the debt will be paid off in 2 weeks. The fat one laughs. He says they hear that every month. Ha-joon looks at him, not angrily, calmly. 2 months ago, he would have nodded and backed down. 2 months ago, he was an F-rank trainee who carried backpacks. Now, he is the man who killed a C-rank boss with a piece of rebar. He says it again, quietly. 2 weeks, the debt will be settled. Don't come back. Something in his voice has changed, or in his eyes. The debt collectors exchange glances. They leave. Mom is standing behind him. She's looking at the back of his head. She doesn't recognize her son, but she likes what she sees. On the 5th day, Park Seong-woo calls. The number belongs to the Songman Guild. Ha-joon looks at the screen. He doesn't answer. The call comes again an hour later, then another hour after that. On the 4th try, a voicemail comes through. Seong-woo says he's glad Ha-joon is alive, that there was a misunderstanding, that the team was sure he'd gone through the backup portal, that they'd been looking for him, that the guild is waiting for him. Ha-joon listens to the message until the end. Then he deletes it. They were looking for him. 3 calls from the guild's number in 2 weeks. 1 message from Soyon. That's all he was worth to the people he spent 2 years with. He isn't angry. Anger is an emotion that requires energy. He doesn't have the energy for it. He only has a plan, recertification, selling materials, debts, moving, everything else later. On the 7th day, he heads to Seoul. The association's testing center is in Gangnam, a massive building made of glass and concrete. Security at the entrance. Inside, marble floors and screens displaying hunter rankings. Ha-joon enters the reception area. The girl behind the counter looks at him. She looks at the computer. She looks at him again. She asks if she's seeing correctly. Jong Ha-joon, F rank, request for recertification. Ha-joon nods. The girl says that F rank recertification usually doesn't result in a rank higher than E. The statistics show a 0.3% chance of advancing more than 1 rank. Ha-joon says he wants to take the test. The girl sighs. She gives him a number. 213, 12 people ahead of him. Ha-joon sits down in the waiting room. Other hunters waiting to be tested sit nearby. Young, nervous. Most of them are E and D ranks who have come to confirm a small rank increase. No one looks at Ha-joon. His clothes are ordinary. His face is ordinary. Nothing about him suggests he's a hunter. He sits and waits. The system interface hovers before his eyes. He scans the stats of the people around him. The guy on the left, D rank, strength 35, agility 28, ability skin hardening, skill description. When activated, increases physical defense by 30% for 60 seconds. Cooldown 120 seconds. Hidden effect. When used multiple times within an hour, the effect stacks up to 3 times. The guy doesn't know this. He uses the skill once before the fight and forgets about it. If he knew about the stacking, his defense would be 90%, almost invulnerable. Ha-joon looks at him and thinks, this guy could be B rank, not in 5 years, in 6 months, if someone had shown him his own skill. 213. His number lights up on the board after 2 hours of waiting. Ha-joon gets up and goes to the testing room. It's large, white. The floor is made of impact-resistant polymer. There are sensors on the walls. In the corner, behind a glass partition, 3 operators in white lab coats are sitting. One of them is a man in his 50s with graying temples, a badge on his lab coat. Senior expert, Kim Dong-hyuk. He looks at his tablet, then at Ha-joon, then back at the tablet. He speaks. Jung Ha-joon. F rank. Last test a year and a half ago. Ability, perception, 5-meter radius. What has changed? Ha-joon says he wants to take the full test. Kim Dong-hyuk looks at him over his glasses. He's seen thousands like him, low-rank young hunters who come every 6 months, hoping their numbers have miraculously improved. Usually, they haven't. He nods to the operator. Begin. First test. Physical. Impact force on the touch panel. Ha-joon approaches the panel, clenches his fist, strikes, not with full force. About 60%. The panel flashes. A number appears on the screen. 342 units. Silence behind the glass. Kim Dong-hyuk takes off his glasses. He looks at the screen, then at Ha-joon. 342 units. F rank shows a maximum of 50. D rank ranges from 100 to 200. C rank ranges from 200 to 400. Ha-joon hit the C rank range with a 60% power strike. Kim Dong-hyuk says, "Do it again." Ha-joon strikes again. 355. The silence behind the glass grows thicker. Second test, mana. Ha-joon places his hand on the crystal sensor. The device reads the amount of mana in his body. A number appears on the screen. 4,800 units. F rank ranges from 100 to 300. B rank ranges from 3,000 to 7,000. Kim Dong-hyuk stands up from his chair. He steps out from behind the partition. He approaches Ha-joon. He looks up at him. "Young man, are you sure your current rank is F?" Ha-joon nods. Kim Dong-hyuk is silent for 5 seconds. Then he speaks. "Let's continue. Third test, ability. Ha-joon must demonstrate his ability, perception. Previously, a 5-meter radius. The operator places 10 objects around the room. Some are visible, some are hidden behind walls and panels. Ha-joon closes his eyes. His perception radius is now 28 meters. He senses all 10 objects, plus the 3 operators behind the glass, plus 7 people in the hallway behind the door, plus a cat on the roof of the building 3 stories above. He opens his eyes and names the location of all 10 objects. Exactly, with a margin of error of up to a centimeter. Kim Dong-hyuk records the results. His hand trembles. He has worked at the association for 22 years. He has seen a 1-rank jump. He has seen a 2-rank jump. Never in his life has he seen a jump from F to B in a year and a half without any recorded intermediate growth. He looks up at Ha-joon, asks how. Ha-joon says he trained. Kim Dong-hyuk looks at him for a long time. He knows that's not true, not entirely. Training doesn't produce that kind of growth. No training does, but his job is testing, not interrogation. He records the result. Rank. B. Recommendation. Retest in 3 months for confirmation. Ha-joon receives a new card, a blue one, B rank. With it, he can sell materials up to B rank through auctions. He can sign contracts with guilds, he can participate in raids up to B rank, and most importantly with it, debt collectors will no longer come to his mother's house, because a B rank hunter belongs to a different social class. That means contracts worth 50 million won a year. That means insurance 10 times higher than an FR wine tankankores like Hobiri Dowrik Ekorifoes. Octinsendes Bidison Atsin Kassadarichs and Maintafernakia. Thens Essen Adrius de Everest, Perkurds and whom debt collection agencies won't touch because they know the association is behind him. Ha-joon steps out of the building. Seoul buzzes and glitters all around him. Gangnam. Expensive cars, expensive people, expensive signs. He stands on the sidewalk with a blue card in his pocket, thinking about what he needs to do in the next 2 days. Sell the materials, pay off his debts, find an apartment in Seoul, move his mother there, and after that, decide what to do about Songmun, about Park Song-woo, with Soyon, with all the people who abandoned him and now want him back. The phone rings. An unknown number. Ha-joon answers. A man's voice, polite. He introduces himself as a representative of the Taewa Guild, one of the top 3 in Korea. He says they've learned about his test results. They found out quickly. The test ended 20 minutes ago. The representative says the guild leader would like to meet to discuss a possible partnership. Ha-joon asks how they know his results. The representative says the Taewa Guild has its own channels. Ha-joon is silent for 3 seconds. He says he'll think about it. He hangs up. A minute later, another number calls. Hankook Guild. Top 5. Same message. We want to meet to discuss a contract. 5 minutes later, a third call. Cheonguk Guild. Top 7. Ha-joon turns off his phone. 3 guilds in 20 minutes. Information from the association spreads instantly. The results of the F-rank test that became a B rank aren't just news. It's a sensation. Soon, everyone will know about it. Ha-joon gets on the subway and heads back to Incheon. He needs to think. In silence. No calls, no offers. No people who suddenly want to be his friends. He sits by the window and opens the system interface. He doesn't look at his stats. He looks at the skill reading module. Over a week of training, he realized something important. His strength isn't in seeing his own numbers. His strength is in seeing others. The guy in the waiting room with his skin fortification, that guy could be B rank if he knew how to stack his skill. How many like him are there across the country? How many hunters are stuck at D and C rank because no one ever explained to them how their own ability works? The association tests strength, speed, mana pool, but no one tests skill mechanics. No one looks at the code. Everyone plays the game by feel. Ha-joon looks out the subway car window. The darkness of the tunnel rushes by, and a plan begins to take shape in his head, one bigger than debt and bigger than moving. He can do what no one else can. He can read people like code, find bugs, apply patches, make the weak strong, not with magic, not with money, with knowledge. The train emerges from the tunnel. Light floods the car. Ha-joon closes his eyes and thinks about the team, not the guild. Guilds are corporations. Stocks and endorsements and marketing departments. He doesn't need a corporation. He needs 5 or 6 people he can trust. People he'll build himself. He'll give each one the missing piece. Optimize leveling up. He'll take them to the top. The best team isn't the one with the strongest members. It's the one where everyone is in their rightful place. He knows this as a developer. The best raid isn't a group of 6 damage dealers. It's a group where 1 tanks, 1 heals, 1 controls, and 3 deal damage, and everyone does their job 100%. All that's left is to find these people. The materials will be gone in 2 days. Ha-joon sells the crystals through the association's auction. 9 mana crystals from the Stone Guardians, a mini boss crystal, the core of the obsidian archon, a total of 23.4 million won after commission. He transfers 20 million to the collection agency's account. The debt was 30 million. There, 10 million left. He'll pay that off next month. He divides the remaining 3.4 million, 2 million for the down payment on an apartment in Seoul, Mapo district, not Gangnam, not expensive, but clean and quiet and 15 minutes from the subway. 1 million for living expenses. 400,000 for gear. His first real gloves, not from the store, by the subway, combat gloves with knuckle guards and a short blade, not a sword, a knife with a 25-centimeter blade, light, fast, suited to his style. Ha-joon isn't a close combat fighter in the classic sense. He doesn't stand in front of a monster and hack away. He waits, he counts, he strikes once in the right spot. For that, he needs not a sword, but a tool, precise, compact. The move takes 3 days. Mom has few belongings, clothes, dishes, photos on the wall, a framed photo of Ji-hyun, his older sister, a B-rank hunter. She died 4 years ago in a near Daejeon. She was 23. Ha-joon places the photo on a shelf in the new apartment. He looks at it. Ji-hyun smiles from the photo. The Songmun Guild uniform, that very guild, that very captain. Park Seong-woo promised her he'd look after her brother, and then he left him in the dungeon. Ha-joon turns away from the photo. Not the time. He turns on his laptop and starts working. Not on leveling up, on research. The system grants him access to the dungeon analysis module. He can see the structure of any dungeon he enters, but there's a feature he hasn't tried yet. Remote analysis. If he has data on a dungeon, its coordinates, rank, and type, the system can build an approximate model, not an exact one, but enough to understand the basic structure. Ha-joon opens the association's public database, a list of active dungeons in Korea, 347 of them from F to A rank. There are officially 3S. Rank dungeons are officially 3, all under the control of government raid teams. He begins running the data through the system, dungeon after dungeon, building models, looking for patterns. 6 hours later, he finds what he was looking for, or rather, what he wasn't looking for, but which found him. Among the 347 dungeons, there is one that doesn't fit into any category. Dungeon number 0. Beneath the old power plant in Incheon, his dungeon, it's listed as closed, cleared. Status, inactive, but the system shows something else. Status, dormant, not closed, not cleared, dormant. Like a boss waiting to awaken, Ha-joon stares at the screen. Before him is a line that shouldn't be there. Dungeon type. Class 0. Function. User selection. Best. Site sur selection. Number of activations over 20 years, 17. Number of surviving users, 1. He reads the number again. 17 activations. 17 people entered this dungeon. 16 didn't come out. He's the only one. Ha-joon leans back in his chair. His dungeon wasn't random. This isn't a ranking glitch, not an association error. It was a dungeon that chose people. 16 hunters had disappeared into it over 20 years, and someone knew about it. Someone was sending them there. He opens the system logs. He searches deeper. At the very bottom of the interface is a tab he hadn't noticed before. Changelog. He opens it. A long list. Dates. Actions. Most of the lines are encrypted, but one is legible. The last entry before his arrival. Date. 20 years ago. Action. Transfer of administrator rights. Performed by user. Nickname hidden. Status. Previous administrator. Active. Ha-joon sits in front of the screen and feels the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Previous administrator. Someone before him had this system. Someone 20 years ago received the same interface, the same modules, the same ability to see the world as code, and that someone is still alive, active. What has he done with this power over the past 20 years? Ha-joon closes his laptop. He stands up. He goes to the kitchen. Mom is cooking dinner. The apartment smells of rice and kimchi. Outside the window, Seoul glows with a million lights. A new apartment, a new neighborhood, a new life. But beneath it all lies an old secret. 16 dead hunters, 1 living administrator, and a dungeon that sleeps but has not died. Ha-joon sits down at the table. He eats. He is silent. His mother asks what he is thinking about. He says he is thinking about work. It's true. It's just that the work has changed. The next day, he receives a message from Soyon. The second one in 2 weeks. She writes that she wants to meet, not about guild business, just the two of them. Ha-joon reads the message, thinks for a minute, replies. The cafe on the corner of Hongdae. Tomorrow at 3. Time to settle old scores before starting new ones. The cafe in Hongdae is small. Wooden tables. The smell of roasted beans. Ha-joon arrives 15 minutes early. He sits by the window. Orders an Americano, opens the system interface, and waits. He doesn't want this meeting, not because he's angry at Soyon, but because he doesn't know what to say to her. For 2 years, she was the only one in the guild who didn't make fun of him out loud. She poured him coffee before raids. She checked his gear. Once, she bandaged his hand when he cut himself on the edge of a shield in a D-rank dungeon. Trivial. But in a world where everyone else looked right through him, these little things were all he had. And then she went deep with the rest of them. She turned around and left. Soyon enters the cafe at 2:58 p.m. Punctual, as always, short, quiet, hair tied back in a ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. She looks like she hasn't slept for several nights. She sits across from him, orders a latte. She's silent. Ha-joon is silent, too. 30 seconds of silence. Soyon says she doesn't know where to start. Ha-joon says she can start from the beginning. Soyon stares at the table. She says that on that day, she voted against it. When Sunwoo suggested leaving Ha-joon at the entrance, she said no. Minho said yes. Tae-jin said yes. Songwoo said it was the captain's decision and that they were leaving. Soyon says she should have refused to go. She should have stayed with him. But the dungeon was changing and monsters were everywhere, and she got scared. She was afraid that if she stayed, she would die too, and she chose her own life. She says this in a steady voice. No tears, no breaking point, just a fact. She chose her own life. Ha-joon listens. He doesn't interrupt. She continues. After leaving the dungeon, she couldn't sleep properly for 2 months. Every night, she saw his face in that tunnel. When she found out he was alive, she didn't believe it for the first 3 days. Then came relief. Then shame. Shame that hasn't gone away. She says she didn't come to beg to be taken back. She came to say she's quitting the hunt. For good. She filed a request with the association to deactivate her hunter status. In a month, her card will become invalid. She'll get a job in an office. Or in a store. Anywhere. Just not in the dungeon. Ha-joon listens while simultaneously looking at her through the system interface. A habit. He can't turn it off. Soyon's stats window lights up next to her face. Jung Soyon. 25 years old, rank B, class, healer, HP 2200, mana 6800, primary skill, touch of restoration. And then Ha-joon sees something that makes him freeze with a cup of coffee halfway to his mouth. Skill description, touch of restoration, type, restorative, effect, restores the target's health to a fixed point, does not heal damage, resets the target's status, trigger time, the moment of the healer's first physical contact with the target during combat, cooldown 180 seconds. Ha-joon reads the description 3 times. This isn't a regular heal. A regular heal closes wounds, restores HP, removes debuffs. Soyon's skill does something else. It saves a person's health state at a specific moment and then restores them to that state, like a save point in a game, like a rollback function in a database. This means that if Soyon touches the tank before the battle when he is at 100% health, she can return him to that state at any moment during the battle. Full health, full buffs, full rollback of all damage, not healing but a reset. Ha-joon sets his cup down on the table. He looks at Soyon. She sits across from him with her eyes downcast, saying she's useless as a hunter, that her heal is weak, that she's never been able to heal a serious wound in battle. That Sonu told her she's the weakest healer in the guild. Ha-joon listens and understands. She doesn't know, no one knows. Everyone thinks her heal just doesn't work well because she's using it wrong. She tries to heal like a regular healer. She lays her hands on the wound and waits. But her skill doesn't heal wounds. It rewinds the state. If she touches the wounded person after they've been injured, the anchor point is the wounded state, and the rewind returns them to that wounded state. She's healing a wound with a wound. It's like trying to save a game after a character dies and then loading that save. It's pointless, but if she touches the person before the battle, before they're wounded, then the reference point will be their healthy state. And the rollback will restore full health. Ha-joon looks at her and says, "You're not dead weight." Soyon looks up. Ha-joon says she needs to see something. He can't show her the interface. Only he can see the system, but he can't explain. He takes a napkin, draws a diagram. Here you are. Here's your skill. Here's how you use it. And here's how it actually works. He draws arrows, explains the mechanics. Moment of content agent where what's in chicken. State rollback. Soyon listens, at first with confusion, then with interest, then with something resembling horror. She asks how he knows. Ha-joon says he trained and learned to see things he couldn't see before. A half-truth, the best he can offer. Soyon looks at the diagram and then at him. She says, it's madness. That if it's true, she's been using her skill the wrong way for 2 years. For 2 years, she was useless, not because she was weak, but because no one explained it to her. Ha-joon nods. Exactly. She's the rarest type of healer in the country, possibly one of 3. A support with a full recovery function, On the right team, with the right strategist, she's not just useful, she's irreplaceable. Soyon is silent for a long time. Then her eyes begin to shine. She turns away toward the window. She bites her lip. Ha-joon waits. She isn't crying out of hurt. She's crying because, for the first time in 2 years, someone has looked at her and seen not weakness, but a configuration error. Not a broken person, but a misconfigured skill. That's different. It means it can be fixed. She turns back around, wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, asks quietly, "What should she do?" Ha-joon says. Don't quit the hunt. You need a coach, not a captain who uses you as a first aid kit. A coach who knows how your ability works and will help you get the most out of it. Soyon asks where she can find such a coach. Ha-joon finishes his coffee. He sets down his cup. He looks at her. He isn't smiling. But he isn't frowning either. He says he thinks he knows someone. Soyon looks at him, and for the first time during their entire conversation, something other than guilt appears on her face. Something small and tentative. Something like hope. They sit in the cafe for another hour. Ha-joon sketches out a training plan on napkins. Every day, every exercise, the exact sequence, how to train point of stability fixation, how to increase duration, how to shorten the cooldown through repetition. Soyon listens and takes notes on her phone. Her hands aren't shaking anymore. When they leave the cafe, Ha-joon heads right toward the subway. Soyon stands still. He turns around. She says she's sorry for that day. Ha-joon is silent for a second. Then he says he knows. He doesn't say he forgives her. He doesn't say he doesn't forgive her. He says he knows. That's enough. Bye. 2 weeks after meeting Soyon, Ha-joon trains every day. In the morning, physical training. In the afternoon, C-rank dungeons through the association's freelance system. In the evening, data analysis. The schedule is grueling. Up at 5, a 10-kilometer run, an hour of strength training. Then a raid. Then a shower. Then the laptop until midnight. Mom leaves him food on the table when he comes home late. He eats cold rice with kimchi and stares at the screen. His level is rising. 23, 25, 27. He chooses dungeons with maximum efficiency. Not the highest ranked ones, but those where the experience to time ratio is optimal. A C-rank dungeon in Namson that can be cleared in 40 minutes yields as much experience as a B-rank one in Busan takes 3 hours to clear. The system calculates. He follows the calculations. The association takes note. A new B-rank hunter, John Ha-joon, clears dungeons with perfect efficiency. Not a single wasted move. Not a single mistake. The reports from the operators monitoring the raids via drones are all the same. The subject enters, analyzes the situation, moves to the optimal spot, delivers the minimum number of strikes. Monster destroyed. Moves on to the next one. Clear time is 40% below average for B rank. These reports land on Oh-hana's desk. Association analyst, 28 years old, leading specialist in dungeon structure, 3 laptops on the desk, glasses on her nose, her 4th cup of coffee of the day. Hana reads the reports on Ha-joon and feels a professional itch. Something doesn't add up. An F-rank hunter who became B-rank in a year and a half. That's not just unusual, it's statistically impossible. In the 20 years the ranking system has existed, there have been 0 recorded cases of a 4-rank jump without a second-order awakening, and a second awakening is automatically registered by the association via mana markers. Ha-joon doesn't have one. By all indicators, he followed a standard linear progression, just unnaturally fast. Hana opens his file. A photograph. Young. Ordinary. Nothing special. Previous guild. Songmun. Deactivated 2 months ago. Reason. Presumed death in a dungeon. Status. Alive. Re-evaluation. B rank. Hana flips through the pages and freezes. The dungeon where he supposedly died. An old power plant in Incheon. Index 0 to 17. She knows that index. She has been writing reports on dungeons with a 0 index for the past 10 years. 0 index dungeons. Dungeons that don't fit into the classification, that appear and disappear, where people vanish. Over 10 years, she wrote 32 reports. Each one went into the archive. Each one disappeared after a month. Someone up there was wiping them out, methodically, carefully, without a trace. She couldn't figure out who. Too high a level of access. Someone from the association's leadership. The director. Or someone close to him. Hana knew. And she kept quiet. Because trouble starts for people who don't keep quiet. Her colleague Choi Yeon-jin, who 3 years ago began asking questions about the Zero Dan cases, resigned of his own accord. A week after his resignation, his car broke down on the bridge over the Han. He survived, but he left Seoul and no longer answers his phone. 6 months ago, strange little things started happening to Hana herself. Brakes that suddenly failed, the lock on her apartment that had been changed while she was at work, an email from her work address that she hadn't sent. Warnings, subtle, elegant, clear. She understood, and she kept quiet. She continued writing her usual reports on ordinary dungeons. She removed level 0 dungeons from her priorities, but not from her mind. 10 years' worth of data sits on an encrypted external drive in a safe in her apartment. Every report, every number, every name of a missing hunter, 16 names. And now, the 17th appears, the one who didn't go missing, the one who made it out. Hana looks at the photo of Ha-joon, an ordinary face, an ordinary person who did the impossible. She closes the file. She thinks. 2 options. First, report it to the higher-ups, report the anomaly, the right path, safe, useless, because the one who screens the reports sits up there. Second, find him herself. Talk. Understand. She chooses the second option, not out of bravery, out of exhaustion. 10 years of silence have worn her down more than fear. On the very same day, Ha-joon returns from a C-rank dungeon, a routine raid, an underground bunker from the Korean War era in Yeonsan. Weak monsters. Clear time, 35 minutes. Average experience. A person is waiting for him at the exit. A woman, short, glasses, a business suit, 3 laptops in a shoulder bag. He can tell by the way the bag is pulling on her shoulder. She approaches and introduces herself. Oh, Hana, lead analyst of the Structural Monitoring Department at the Korean Hunters Association. Ha-joon looks at her, opens the interface. Oh, Hana, rankless, not a hunter. Stats are minimal, but there's a line in her profile that he's seeing for the first time. Analytical index, 94 out of 100. This isn't a combat rating, it's a data processing metric, an intellectual metric the system assigns to non-hunters. 94 out of 100. Ha-joon doesn't know what that means in absolute terms, but he knows it's very high. Hana says she wants to talk, not here, not on the street. Somewhere, without the association's cameras. Ha-joon asks what it's about. Hana says one word, 0. Ha-joon is silent for 3 seconds. Then he nods. They go to a small noodle shop, 2 blocks away, old, noisy. No cameras. Hana sits across from him and takes out her tablet. A table appears on the screen, 16 rows, 16 names. Next to each one is a date, a rank, a dungeon, missing status. Hana says she's been collecting data on 0 dungeons for 10 years, that the dungeon in Incheon is one of 7 she knows of in Korea. that over the past 20 years, at least 16 hunters have disappeared in them, that all reports on them are being wiped from the association's database by someone with the highest level of access, that they tried to intimidate her when she started digging, and that he is the first person to come out of such a dungeon alive. Ha-joon listens. He looks at the table. 16 names. 16 people who went in there before him, who received the same system, or didn't receive it, or received it and couldn't make it through. He asks if she knows who's deleting the reports. Hannah says she doesn't know. The access level points to one of 4 people, the association director, 2 deputies, or the head of security. She can't narrow it down. Ha-joon is silent. Then he says, "I can." Hannah looks at him. Ha-joon doesn't explain. He can't explain, but he knows that if he gets close to these 4 people, the system will show him their parameters, their skills, their hidden stats. And among those stats will be something that gives away the previous administrator, because the system recognizes its former user. It has to. Ha-joon says he needs time and access to her data. Hannah looks at him. For a long time, she's waited 10 years for someone to tell her that her data isn't a theory but a map of a crime. He's the first. She takes an external drive out of her bag, places it on the table. She says, "It's all here. 10 years, 32 reports, 16 names, 7 dungeons. Everything is encrypted. She'll dictate the password." Ha-joon takes the drive, light, small. Inside are 10 years of someone's life and 16 deaths. He puts it in his pocket, says he'll be in touch. Hannah nods. She stands up, walks toward the exit. Stops, turns around, tells him he should be careful. The one who cleans up reports knows how to clean up people too. Ha-joon nods. He knows better than she thinks. He himself almost became one of those 16 names on her tablet. He walks out of the noodle shop. Seoul at night. Streetlights, neon signs. People go about their business. No one knows that in the pocket of a 24-year-old guy in a cheap jacket lies an external drive containing evidence of a 20-year conspiracy within Korea's main hunter organization. Ha-joon heads toward the subway. Numbers spin in his head. 16 names, 7 dungeons, 1 former administrator, and a new question. If the one before him used the system for 20 years, if he cleaned up reports, eliminated people, and controlled the 0-level dungeons, why? Why send hunters into dungeons that kill them? Why create 0-level dungeons if you're the only one who's ever passed one? The answer comes on the subway between stations, simple and cold. Not why send them, but why not let them out? 0-level dungeons choose the system's user. If the user survives, they gain the same power as the previous administrator. Concurrent. A threat. That's why 16 people didn't come out. Not because they couldn't, but because someone made sure they couldn't. Ha-joon stands in the subway car, holding onto the handrail. People all around him. Ordinary people. Tired. With phones in their hands. None of them know that the head of their association might be a murderer, that the man who has been supposed to protect the hunters for 20 years kills those who might become too strong. Ha-joon grips the handrail. The metal bends under his fingers. He lets go. He looks at the dent. 2 months ago, he couldn't do 20 push-ups. Now he's bending metal handrails on the subway. The world has changed, or he has changed. Or both. The train pulls into the station. The doors open. Ha-joon gets off. He walks home. Mom is asleep. On the table is a plate of rice and a note. Eat. Ha-joon eats. Then he sits down at his laptop. He inserts Hana's drive. He enters the password. The files open. 32 reports, 16 names, 7 zero-level dungeons. He starts reading. He doesn't sleep until dawn. Ha-joon reads Hana's files for 3 days straight. He sleeps 4 hours at a time. He eats what his mom leaves on the table. 32 reports. Each is written in dry, analytical language. Dates, coordinates, ranks of the missing, circumstances of disappearance. Hana worked like a machine. Not a single emotion in the text. Only numbers. Ha-joon runs the data through the system, builds models, looks for patterns. By the end of the 3rd day, he finds 3. The first. All 16 missing hunters had one thing in common. Their primary ability was not combat-oriented. Perception, analysis, intuition, calculation. Not a single pure fighter. Not a single swordsman or mage. Only those whose abilities were related to information processing. Just like him. The system doesn't choose the strong. It chooses those who think. Second, all 16 were sent to zero-level dungeons through official association assignments. Not voluntarily, they were given the task of clearing a dungeon of a certain rank. The dungeon turned out to be 0-level. They went in and didn't come out. In the documents, this was recorded as death in the line of duty, insurance, flowers, forgotten. Third, every assignment was signed by the same person, not directly, through a chain of signatures. But if you trace the chain to the end, every time it leads to one office. The office of the director of the Korean Hunters Association. Ha-joon closes his laptop. He leans back in his chair. The director of the association, the face he's seen on screens and in the news dozens of times. An older man with gray hair and calm eyes. The man journalists call the architect of Korea's security system. The man who spent 20 years building the hunters' infrastructure. Ratings, guilds, insurance, raids. All of this is his work. And all this time, he's been killing those who could become like him. Ha-joon calls Hana. He says he's found a name. Hana is silent for 5 seconds. Then she asks who. Ha-joon names the person. Hana is silent for another 10 seconds. Then she says she was afraid of this, that she suspected it, but didn't want to believe it. Because if it's true, then everything the hunter system is built on was created by a man who kills his own. Ha-joon says he needs confirmation. Files and chains of signatures are only evidence. He needs to see the director in person. The system will reveal the rest. Hana asks how he plans to get to the director. A B-rank hunter doesn't get an audience with the head of the association. There are 4 levels of bureaucracy between them. Ha-joon says there's a way. The association tournament, the annual hunter competition, it takes place in 3 weeks. The director personally attends the semifinals and finals. Ha-joon is strong enough to make it to the semifinals. That's enough. Hana says it's dangerous. If the director finds out that Ha-joon is from a zero-dan team, he'll try to take him out. Ha-joon says he knows. That's exactly why he doesn't plan to win the tournament. He'll lose in the semifinals on purpose. Far enough not to attract attention. Close enough to end up in the same hall as the director. 3 weeks until the tournament. Ha-joon is training. But not alone. Soyon is training with him every evening. The gym in the basement of an apartment complex in Mapo, cheap, empty after 10 o'clock. Soyon is practicing fixing the anchor point over and over. Touch, fix, recoil. Touch, lock on, recoil. The first week she gets it every other time. The lock-on point is unstable. The recoil works only partially. Ha-joon stands nearby and corrects her. It's not the skill. She can't change her skill directly, but she can change the moment of activation. timing, like in music. A skill is an instrument. You have to play it at the right moment. By the end of the second week, Soyon locks the point with 95% accuracy. The reset works perfectly. She restores the training dummy from a shattered state to a whole state with a single touch. The dummy reassembles itself as if rewinding. Soyon watches this, and her hands tremble, not from fatigue, from realization. 2 years. For 2 years, she thought she was broken, that her healing was useless, that Sonu was right, and she was the weakest healer in the guild. And now she stands in the empty gym, watching the mannequin reassemble from dust, and realizes that all this time she was a weapon that no one knew how to wield, except for one person, who is now standing next to her, telling her she needs to reduce the cooldown by 15 seconds, and that to do so, she needs to adjust her breathing when activating the skill. She looks at him. He isn't looking at her. He's looking at an interface she can't see, counting, always counting. She wants to say, "Thank you." But he's already moved on to the next exercise. A week before the tournament, Ha-joon receives another call, not from the guild, from an unknown number, a woman's voice. Young, sharp, the voice introduces itself. Lim Chae-rin, the Tehwa Guild. She says she's heard of him, that she wants a sparring match, not an official one, a private one. No cameras, no spectators. She wants to see how strong he is. Ha-joon asks why. Chae-rin is straightforward. Her father, the head of the Tehwa Guild, wants to recruit him. She wants to check if he's worth it. If he's weaker than they say, she'll save her father some time. If he's stronger, she's interested. Ha-joon thinks for 3 seconds. He says yes. Not because he wants to impress the eras of a top guild, but because he wants to see her stats. Lim Chae-rin, A rank, swordswoman, dance of the blade. He's read about her, a rising star, the face of advertising campaigns, perfect technique, perfect discipline, and rumors that she's hiding an injury. The sparring match is scheduled for the next day. The Tehwa Guild's training hall, huge, expensive. The floor is covered with a special material that absorbs shock waves. The Lim clan's crests adorn the walls. Chae-rin is already waiting. Tall, slender, shoulder-length black hair. Her face is beautiful and cold, like a magazine cover, a training sword in her hands. She looks at Ha-joon, and he sees an assessment in her eyes. Quick, professional. She assesses his body, his stance, his muscles, and she reaches a conclusion. He sees this conclusion in the way her shoulders relax slightly. She has decided he is not a threat. Ha-joon opens the interface. Lim Chae-rin, 23 years old. Rank A. Class, swordswoman. Strength, 112. Agility, 134. Stamina, 89. HP, 4,600. Primary skill, Dance of the Blade. A 5-combo series of strikes with increasing damage. First strike, 100%. Second, 120. Third, 150. Fourth, 200, fifth, 300, and a hidden line, defect, fifth combo. A 0.3 second micro delay between the fourth and fifth strikes. Cause, compensatory load shift to the lumbar spine. Prognosis, progressive degeneration, complete loss of mobility in the lumbar spine. Expected lifespan, 26 years, give or take a year. Ha-joon reads and feels something tighten in her chest. She is 23. In 3 years, her back will be ruined forever. She knows this. She must know. The pain after the fifth combination is impossible to ignore. But she continues every day because that's all she has. The heir to the Tehwa Guild cannot be weak. The sparring begins. Chae-rin attacks first, fast, precise. First strike, Ha-joon blocks with her knife. The vibration shoots up her arm to her shoulder. She is stronger than him, significantly. Second strike, he dodges. Third, a roll. Fourth, He sees her body move, perfect mechanics. Every muscle works like clockwork until the fourth strike. As she transitions to the fifth, he sees it. A microsecond delay, 0.3 seconds. Her back twitches slightly. Compensation, pain. She hides it behind the speed of the fifth strike. He blocks. The knife flies out of his hands. She wins. Obviously, he didn't even try to win. Sharon sheaths her sword, looks at him, says he's weaker than she expected. Ha-joon picks up the knife from the floor. He says she'll kill herself by 30. Silence in the hall. Sharon freezes. Her face doesn't change, but her fingers on the sword hilt turn white. She asks what he said. Ha-joon says it again. The fifth combination, a micro delay between the fourth and fifth strikes, 0.3 seconds. Compensation through the lumbar region. In 3 years, her back won't hold up. She knows this. Chae-rin is silent for 10 seconds. Then her voice becomes quiet and dangerous. She asks how he knows. Ha-joon says he can see it. He doesn't explain how. He just sees it. Chae-rin stands before him and, for the first time during sparring, looks not like a swordswoman, but like a 23-year-old girl who has just been told out loud what she's been telling herself for 2 years in the darkness of her own room. She knew. Since she was 21, the doctors confirmed it. Degenerative changes, irreversible with current combat techniques. She hid it from her family, from the guild, from her coaches. She trained through the pain. She took painkillers before every raid, and now a stranger, a BI, and in a single sparring session, he sees what she had been hiding for 2 years. Ha-joon says he can fix it, not heal her back, rewrite her combo, remove the fifth move, add a sixth, a different one suited to her actual physiology, without straining her lower back, with the same damage, maybe even more. Chae-rin looks at him. Her eyes are shining, but she isn't crying. She is the heir to Taehwa. She doesn't cry in front of strangers. She says that if he's lying, she'll kill him. Ha-joon says he isn't lying. He sits down on the gym floor. He takes out a notebook and begins to draw. A new combination, a sixth strike instead of the fifth. The angle of attack is shifted by 15 degrees. The load is redistributed from the lower back to the hips and torso. Ha-joon sketches for 2 hours. Chae-rin sits next to him and watches silently, without interrupting. For the first time in her life, someone isn't telling her she's strong and beautiful and talented. Someone is telling her she's broken and that it can be fixed. It's different. It's better. The association tournament is taking place at the Olympic Center in Gangnam. 200 hunters from D to A rank. 16 make it to the main. Live broadcast on 3 channels. Sponsored banners on every wall. Ha-joon registers rank B. The draw places him in the lower half of the bracket. First opponent, D rank. Tank, H, P 3800, strength 42. Ha-joon ends the fight in 40 seconds. 1 hit to the weak spot on the right shoulder pad. The tank falls. The hall buzzes, not with admiration, with confusion. A B rank defeated a D rank. That's normal, but in 40 seconds in with a single blow, that's not normal. Second battle, C rank, Ice Mage, HP 2100, Mana 5400, Skill, Ice Wall. Cooldown, 20 seconds. Ha-joon reads his stats in 10 seconds. He spots a weakness. The ice wall is impenetrable from the front, but the mage spends all his mana on frontal defense. The flanks are open. Ha-joon doesn't attack the wall. He runs to the right. The mage rotates the wall. Ha-joon runs to the left. The mage rotates it again. Mana is draining. 5,400, 4,200, 3,100. On the fourth rotation, mana drops below the threshold needed to maintain the wall. The wall vanishes. The mage stands in the middle of the arena, defenseless and with an empty mana pool. Ha-joon approaches and places a knife against his shoulder. The mage surrenders. The hall buzzes. The commentators don't understand what happened. A B-rank hunter has just forced a C-rank mage to exhaust all his mana without landing a single blow. This isn't a fight, it's chess. Third match. Quarterfinals. B-rank. Melee fighter. Strength 88. Agility 95. Skill, acceleration, speed doubles for 10 seconds. Cooldown 60 seconds. Ha-joon sees the hidden effect. After acceleration ends, agility drops by 30% for 5 seconds. A drawback. He waits. The opponent activates acceleration. 10 seconds of hell. Ha-joon only dodges. He doesn't attack. He counts. 10, 9, 3, 2, 1. Acceleration ends. Cooldown. Agility minus 30%. For 5 seconds, the opponent becomes slower than a D-rank hunter. Ha-joon strikes 3 times. Quickly, precisely. The opponent falls. Semifinals. Ha-joon sits in the locker room eating a rice onigiri from a vending machine. His knife lies on the bench next to him. The system displays the stats of his next opponent. A-rank swordsman. Strength 108. Agility 122. A serious fighter. One of the tournament favorites. Ha-joon can defeat him. He sees 3 weak points in his stance and a hidden debuff after his main skill. But he doesn't intend to win. He intends to lose. Because the goal isn't the trophy. The goal is in the VIP box on the 2nd floor. The association director is sitting there. Ha-joon looks up at the box before entering the arena. The distance is 30 meters. His perception radius is 32, right on the edge, but the system must calculate the parameters. He steps into the arena, the semifinals. The cameras are trained on him. The commentators are discussing his previous fights. The dark horse of the tournament, a B-rank fighter who destroys opponents not with strength, but with something inexplicable. Ha-joon takes his stance. He looks up at the box. He opens the interface. Scanning. 30 meters. 31. 32. At the limit. The stats window lights up. Not the opponent in the arena. The man in the box. Director of the Korean Hunters Association. Choi Gon-ju. 58 years old. And Ha-joon sees it. Rank S hidden. Officially, the director is not a hunter. Officially, he's a civil servant, a bureaucrat. But the system shows otherwise. Rank S ability. Developer, sir. Dimbiba Bopper. Pardovery water descent severe ishibiso I novawi a hunt for insbidai. For wild tree ombre white suiwi. Framewa and decreased stone wiry. Nader within point already categorized O status deactivated. Ha-joon reads, and the world around him freezes. Developer system, the same one he has, version 1.0. Ha-joon has version 2.0. The association director received the same system 20 years ago, the same ability, the same modules, and deactivated it. Why? Why get the most powerful weapon in the world and turn it off? The answer comes a second later. Because he is no longer a user, he is an administrator. He doesn't play the game, he runs it. He doesn't need modules to see stats. He needs access to the 0 dungeons to control who gets the system. And if someone gets it, he controls whether that someone survives. 20 years, 16 dead, 1 survivor. Ha-joon. A glitch in his plan, an error in his code, a bug. In the arena, the opponent strikes first. Ha-joon was distracted for 3 seconds. A sword strikes his left side. Not a training sword, a real one. Blood, pain, HP minus 340. Ha-joon rolls to his feet. He gathers himself. He focuses on the fight. He needs to lose, but with style. So it looks like an honorable defeat, not a failure. He fights for 2 minutes. He attacks. He defends. He shows enough to earn the crowd's respect. And in the third minute, he lets his opponent land the finishing combo. The knife flies out of his hands. Ha-joon drops to one knee. He raises his hand. He gives up. The crowd applauds. The commentators say that the B-rank fighter put up an excellent fight and that he has a bright future. Ha-joon stands up. He bows. He leaves the arena. In the hallway, he leans against the wall. He presses his hand against the wound on his side. Blood flows through his fingers. It hurts, but it's not fatal. He takes out his phone. He texts Hane one word, confirmed. A reply comes a minute later. See you tomorrow. Ha-joon puts his phone away. He goes to the medical station. They stitch up the wound. Standard procedure. The medic asks how he's feeling. Ha-joon says he's fine. It's just... He feels like a man who has looked under the hood of the world and seen that the engine is rusty and the mechanic is crazy, but that can wait until tomorrow. Right now, he needs to get the wound stitched up and go home. Mom is waiting for dinner. He walks out of the infirmary. Park Seon-woo is standing in the hallway, the former captain of the Songmun Guild. Ha-joon stops. Seong-woo looks different than he did 2 months ago. Thinner, paler, dark circles under his eyes. He stands there looking at Ha-joon like a man who wants to say something but can't find the first word. Ha-joon looks at him through the interface. Park Seong-woo, 29 years old, rank B, stats stable. Nothing has changed. The same person, the same strength, the same weakness. Sun-woo says he watched the fight, that Ha-joon has changed, that he doesn't recognize him. Ha-joon remains silent. Seong-woo says he wants to explain that things didn't go according to plan in that dungeon, that he made a decision in a moment of panic, that he regrets it. Ha-joon looks at him, sees his stats, sees his skills, sees the tremor in his hands. This man is no monster. He's ordinary, frightened, weak not in body, but in spirit. He abandoned him not because he wanted him dead, but because, in a moment of fear, he chose himself, just as millions of people do every day. Ha-joon says one sentence, "I know." Then he walks past. He doesn't turn around. Sun-woo stands in the hallway and watches his back and realizes he's just received an answer worse than any blow. Not hatred, not forgiveness. Indifference. A month after the tournament, Ha-joon is putting together a team, not a guild, a team. A small office in Hongdae, second floor above a coffee shop, 4 desks, a coffee machine, a whiteboard on the wall. He rents it for 800,000 won a month. Soyon is the first to arrive. She quits Songmun quietly. No drama. She simply places her ID card on Sun-woo's desk and leaves. Sun-woo doesn't try to stop her. He knows where she's going. Soyon sits down at the desk by the window. Her rollback skill now works consistently. The cooldown has been reduced from 180 to 140 seconds. She's been training every day. Chaerin is the second to arrive. This is more complicated. As the heiress of Tehua, she can't just walk out of her father's guild. She tells Ha-joon that she'll work with him unofficially, training and raiding with his team. Officially, she remains in Tehua. For now, her new 6th combo works. 2 weeks of training, 4 hours every day. Ha-joon stood by her side and corrected every movement, the angle of the strike, the position of her feet, weight transfer. The strain is off her lower back. Her back doesn't hurt for the first time in 2 years. Chaerin doesn't thank him out loud. She comes to the office every day at 7 in the morning and trains in silence until 9. That is her thanks. The third, Kang-yoon. Ha-joon finds her by chance. He's sitting in a cafe, scrolling through his newsfeed. An article about a young idol hunter, a former agency trainee, a C-rank fire mage, 200,000 followers, a photo with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. The article says she failed her last raid. She let a group of monsters escape because of low damage. The comments are cruel. Cute, but useless. A face for the cover, not for battle. Ha-joon finds her contact through the association. He writes to her. She replies 3 days later. They meet on the roof of her agency. Yuna is sitting on the railing. Her legs are dangling. Her hands are in her pockets. She doesn't look like the photos on the internet. No makeup, no smile. Just a tired 21-year-old girl who doesn't understand why all this is happening. Ha-joon opens the interface. Kang Yuna, 21 years old. Rank C, Fire Mage, Mana 7200. Primary skill, Fire Stream. Damage, variable, from 200 to 1800. Stability, 12%. Ha-joon looks at the stability figure, 12%. That means that out of 10 attacks, only 1 falls within the normal damage range. The rest are either too weak or too strong. Instability. Everyone thinks she's weak, but the problem isn't strength. The problem is control. He reads on. Mental trigger, visual focus, current activation method. Yuna visualizes a flame and directs it with her gaze. A standard technique for fire mages, but it doesn't work for her. The system shows why. Her neuroprofile, the visual channel, is overloaded. Fire mages who use visual focus must be able to hold the image of the flame steady. Yuna can't. Her imagination is too vivid. Too fast. The image of the flame in her head changes every second. That's why the fire is unstable. She needs a different trigger. Not visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, or numerical. Ha-joon sits down next to her on the parapet. He says he wants to try something. He asks her to close her eyes, not to imagine the fire, instead to count aloud, in English, from 10 to 1. Yuna looks at him as if he's crazy, but she closes her eyes. 10, 9, 8. Ha-joon sees through the interface how her mana begins to stabilize. The counting occupies the visual channel with something neutral. The flame stops flickering. 7, 6, 5. Stability rises 30%, 50, 74, 3, 2, 90%, 1. Yuna opens her eyes and her palms flare up. Not like usual, not a ragged flame that jerks from side to side. A steady stream, stable, controlled. She looks at her hands, then at Ha-joon, then back at her hands. She doesn't say a word. She just sits there staring at the fire in her palms, even, obedient, for the first time in 3 years. Then the fire dies down, and she cries. Not from pain, not from fear. From relief. For 3 years, she's been afraid of her own power. For 3 years, she's fought weaker so as not to lose control, because once her fire broke free and nearly killed her younger sister. Since then, she's held back. Every fight, every raid, half power, a quarter of her power, just so it wouldn't happen again. But she should have just counted. Ha-joon sits next to her and says nothing. He doesn't comfort her. He doesn't say everything will be okay. He just sits there while she cries. Then he takes 2 cups of tteokbokki out of a bag from the tent below. He sets one next to her. Yuna wipes her face. She takes a cup. She eats. He eats too. They sit on the roof eating tteokbokki and don't talk. Then Yuna asks why he came. Ha-joon says he's putting together a team. He needs a mage, not a pretty one. A real one. Yuna looks at him. She asks why her. Ha-joon pulls out his phone. He shows her the chart he's been working on for 2 weeks. Her actual stats for the last month. day by day with notes. Here, she held back because she was afraid of the cameraman nearby. Here, because she remembered her sister. Here, because the camera was too close. And right here. One line. One moment. A raid 3 weeks ago. She lost herself for a second and struck, with full force, the damage number 1,780. For a C rank, that's an A rank figure. Ha-joon speaks softly. She isn't weak. She's polite. Those are different things. Yuna stares at the chart for a long time, silently. Then she looks up. There's something new in her eyes. Not tears, not gratitude, determination. She says yes. So, Minsu. Ha-joon finds her through the association's database. The youngest S rank in Korea, 19 years old. A tank, 2 meters tall, a shield weighing 150 kilograms, always wearing headphones. Speaks in one word answers. People are afraid to approach her. Her last fight with an A-rank boss ended with her crushing him with her bare hands after losing her shield. The video has 40 million views, comments, monster, not human, terrifying. Ha-joon watches the video. Then he checks her stats via the association's drone footage. With Minsu, rank S, strength 210, stamina 280, HP 12,000. Primary skill, impenetrable wall. Effect, the shield absorbs 100% of incoming damage. Scaling. Ha-joon reads the scaling line and pauses. Scaling. User's sense of security. Coefficient. Linear. Maximum absorption at maximum sense of security. Current coefficient. 34%. Her shield is operating at 34% capacity because she doesn't feel safe. Ever with anyone. S-rank hunter, the strongest tank in Korea, and her shield is operating at a third of its capacity because she has no one to be with. Ha-joon is on his way to her. Minsu lives alone in the apartment bought for her by the association. Big, empty, one chair, one table, headphones on the table. She opens the door and looks down at him, 2 meters against his 1.76. Ha-joon. Ein honko saikvenziamtseyo, kisagiyokjana sir combat means sound, ehonkon dentalband, a case sounds to means, do you shansam, haisom, o, skanta 0. Chirtai soi. Boyo, I shall offer her a spot on the team. Minsu is silent. He waits. She says one word. Why? Ha-joon says he needs a tank. Minsu says there are plenty of tanks. Ha-joon says he needs the best one. Minsu is silent again. Then she steps away from the door, lets him in. They sit at the table. Ha-joon doesn't try to get her to talk, doesn't ask about her feelings, doesn't try to be a friend. He just sits there in silence with her. 10 minutes, 20, half an hour in silence. Minsu sits across from him and looks at him. For the first time, someone has come to her and isn't trying to make her talk, isn't trying to turn her into a story for a magazine. He just sits there. After 40 minutes, Minsu says she'll come see his office tomorrow. Ha-joon nods. He stands up. He leaves. She comes the next day. And the next. And the next. A week later, she's sitting at the 4th desk in the office in Hongdae with headphones on, silent, but close by. The team is assembled, not all of it. Hana isn't there yet. She's still working undercover at the association. Amanda isn't there yet. She'll fly in later, but the core is there. Soyon at the desk by the window. Chae-rin, who comes in the mornings. Yuna, who comes in the evenings. Minsu, who's always there. And Ha-joon in the center, not a leader, a motivator. 2 months after the team was formed, Ha-joon receives the status of freelance consultant at the association, an official position, a small salary, access to databases. Hana guides him through the bureaucracy from the inside. His level is 34, rank A on the system. He doesn't pass the recertification, It's not the time. It's too early to show his true strength. To the world, he's still rank B. Talented, but not exceptional. The team trains every day. Ha-joon tunes them like an orchestra. He gives each one their role. Soyon stands in the rear. She touches each fighter before the battle. She sets a health point. When someone falls, she rolls them back. Full recovery. Chaerin is up front. The new 6th combo, faster than the old 5th, stronger and painless. Her back holds it all together. Yuna is at mid-range. Her fire is steady, controlled, a rank damage. She counts in her head before every strike, and the flame obeys. Minsu is in the center, shield a wall, impenetrable. Her defense rating has risen from 34 to 58% in 2 months. She still doesn't feel completely safe. But with the team by her side, she's better off than she's ever been. Ha-joon sees it in the numbers. 58% is more than any other tank in the country, even at full power. At 100%, Minsu will become unbeatable. It takes time, and she needs people by her side to protect her, not from monsters, from loneliness. The team's first serious raid, a B-rank dungeon beneath the shopping center in Yonsan, a standard clear, 5 floors, 23 monsters, 1 boss. Ha-joon leads the team, not in front, behind. He stands with his headset on and speaks. Minsu, 2 steps to the right. Chaerin, not the 5th combo, but the 6th. Yuna, count from 7, not 10. These monsters are weak to rapid fire. Soyon, mark Chaerin. She'll engage in close combat in 10 seconds. The team moves like a single mechanism, everyone in their place, everyone at the right moment. The clear takes 48 minutes. The average time for a B-rank dungeon of this type is 3 hours. The drone operator looks at the footage and can't believe it. A group of 4 hunters plus 1 B-rank consultant cleared the dungeon in 48 minutes with 0 casualties. This isn't normal. The report lands on Hana's desk. She smiles. First time in 10 years. Second raid, A rank, a dungeon in the Pukansan Mountains. More serious, stronger monsters. An A rank boss. Ha-joon analyzes the dungeon before entering. Layout, traps, spawns, boss mechanics. He sees everything. The dungeon map unfolds before him like a blueprint. He leads the team along the optimal route. Not a single unnecessary skirmish. Not a single trap. The A rank boss falls in 12 minutes. Chaerin lands the finishing blow with her 6th combo. New, clean, painless. She exits the dungeon, and for the first time in 2 years, her back doesn't ache. Third raid, A rank plus. The dungeon beneath Namson Mountain, right in the heart of Seoul. Ha-joon knows this isn't an ordinary dungeon. The system is showing an anomaly. The dungeon is unstable, its structure is shifting, the monsters are mutating. This is one of those dungeons they talk about on the news. The gates have mutated. The bosses aren't. 6 raid parties have died in places like this over the past year. Ha-joon wasn't planning on going there. Not now, but he has no choice. The dungeon beneath Namson is expanding. If it isn't sealed within 3 days, the gate will open completely. In the heart of Seoul, 12 million people. The association is calling for an emergency raid, all available teams. Ha-joon realizes this is his moment, not for glory, for proof. If his team seals the underground passage beneath Namson, they'll become visible, for real, and then they can move forward, toward the director, toward the truth, toward the 16 names on Hana's disk. He gathers the team in the office. He lays out a map of the dungeon on the board. He explains the plan. He tells each person their role. He tells each person what to do and when. Soyon listens, Chaerin listens, Yuna listens, Minsu listens. They don't ask questions. They trust him completely. The next morning, they stand at the entrance to the dungeon. Namson Mountain. The association's cordon. Cameras. Drones. Journalists behind the barrier. For the first time in history, the association has authorized a live broadcast of the raid. Because there's nothing left to hide. All of Seoul knows there's a dungeon beneath Namson. All of Seoul wants to see who will shut it down. Ha-joon stands in front of the entrance. Behind him is the team. Soyon with her hands ready to lock on. Charin with a sword. Yuna with fire in her palms, Minso with a shield, 4 girls, 1 consultant, against a dungeon that has killed 6 raid parties. Ha-joon opens the interface, dungeon analysis, structure, 5 levels, mutated monsters, unusual patterns, and at the very bottom, the final boss. Ha-joon reads the boss's stats and his hands go cold. Final boss, rank SHP 180,000, and a line that makes his heart skip a beat. Model, humanoid, face matches the appearance of Association Director Choi Gon-ju. He enters the dungeon. The dungeon beneath Namson is unlike any other. The walls are black, smooth, like the screen of a turned-off monitor. The air hums with a low sound on the verge of audibility. The system shows an anomaly at every step. The structure is unstable. Levels are shifting. The map is redrawing in real time. Ha-joon leads the team. His voice is steady, calm. Everything is on fire inside. First level. Mutated monsters, not like the ones in regular dungeons. Faster, more vicious. Their patterns break midway. An attack starts on the right and ends on the left. Skills change between strikes. Chaos. For any other team, this is death. For Ha-joon, it's data. He reads every monster in real time. He sees a pattern break half a second before it happens. He speaks into his headset. Minsu to the left. Now. Charin. Right flank in 3 seconds. Yuna, count from 5. Rapid fire is more effective here. They move through the first level in 20 minutes. Not a single injury. Second level, tougher. The monsters are grouping up, working in pairs, in threes, a coordination they didn't have before, as if someone is controlling them. Ha-joon sees a new line in the parameters. Control. External source. Someone is controlling the mutants from the outside, from the lower level, the boss. He leads his soldiers just as Ha-joon leads his team. A mirror. 2 strategists, one above, one below. Ha-joon grits his teeth and works faster. He reads, calculates, commands. Soyon locks onto Charin before every fight. Charin engages in close combat. 6th combo, clean, fast, painless. Minsu holds the front line. The shield absorbs the blows. Protection rate, 62%, higher than ever because behind her stand the people for whom she fights. Yuna strikes from mid-range. Countdown from 10 to 1. Steady flame. Consistent damage. Every shot lands. Level 2, 3. 4, 1 hour, 2, 3. On the 4th level, Minsu misses a strike. A mutant that Ha-joon didn't have time to read hits her in the side. The shield doesn't have time to deploy. HP down 2,400 out of 12,000. Not critical, but Minsu drops to one knee. And at that moment, Ha-joon does something he's never done before. He lunges forward, between Minsu and the mutant, knife in hand. A strike to the weak spot. The mutant falls. Ha-joon stands in front of Minsu, breathing heavily. He's not a tank. He's not a frontline fighter. But he stood up. Minsu looks up at him. For the first time, someone has stood between her and the blow. She isn't the one defending. She is being defended. The system flashes. So, Minsu's protection coefficient, 73%. A spike. 15 points in an instant. Minsu stands up, raises her shield, and something changes in her eyes. Something quiet and immense. She doesn't say a word. She just stands and holds it, stronger than ever. Level 5. The final hall, huge. The ceiling is lost in the darkness. A figure stands in the center. 4 meters tall, humanoid, the face. Ha-joon looks and sees what he saw on the analysis screen. The face of Association Director Chwel Gonju, not an exact copy, a version, younger, stronger, as if someone had taken a 20-year-old version of this man and carved it out of black stone. The boss opens his eyes, red. He looks at Ha-joon and speaks in a human voice. You weren't supposed to survive. Ha-joon stands there, listening. The system processes the boss's stats. HP 180,000. Strength 340, speed 12, 14 skills, each one deadly. This isn't a fight for one person. This isn't a fight for 5 people. This is a fight for an army. But Ha-joon has no army. He has 4 girls and 1 interface. The boss attacks. First skill, Wave of Destruction. Black energy sweeps across the floor in a wave. The radius of effect covers the entire hall. Damage 3,000. Minsu steps forward. Shield, impenetrable wall, coefficient 73%, absorbs 73% of damage. Net damage through the shield is 810, distributed across the entire team, 162 each. Tolerable. Soyon locks onto Minsu. Save point. If Minsu falls, Soyon will rewind. Ha-joon reads the boss's skills. 14. Cooldowns range from 5 to 60 seconds. Attack pattern. No pattern. The boss reacts in real time. It adapts. Like a player, not a mob, because it was created in the image of a player, in the image of the first administrator. Ha-joon thinks on his feet. If the boss adapts, standard tactics won't work. We can't find a pattern and exploit it. We need something else. You have to change tactics faster than the boss adapts. He speaks into the headset. Change of protocol. Random, Charon, attack from the left, no. From the right, no. Down the center, Yuna, count from 3, not 10. Short bursts, Minsu, fall back. No, move forward. He's giving commands that make no sense. On purpose, because if he can't predict his own plan, the boss can't either. Chaos against chaos. The boss loses his footing. For a second, Charon uses that second. 6th combo. Strike to the boss's left side. Damage 4,200. Yuna shoots. A stream of fire streamed to the face. Damage 3,800. Minsu strikes with his shield. He doesn't block. Attacks. With the shield to the right knee. Damage 2,100. Boss, HP 180,000, 169,900, 10,000 in 10 seconds of chaos. Ha-joon calculates. At this rate, re-turi, anil, reeler, anarutas ahiwer esri. What calls your fancies not kunan sirids, since we roundies. Men funeridan. But the boss adapts again, changes its style, switches from ranged attacks to melee. Forearms, each strikes separately. Charon dodges the first. The second hits her in the shoulder. HP minus 1,800. She flies toward the wall. Soyon screams. Ha-joon gives the order. Soyon rewinds to Charon. Now Soyon reaches out. Touch of restoration. Rewind to the save point. Charon returns to her pre-attack state. Full health, full buffs. As if the hit never happened. She gets up from the floor and attacks again. For the first time in the fight, the boss freezes. He doesn't understand what happened. Target was damaged. Target is whole again. Data error. A half-second pause. Yuna uses this pause. Fire. Full power. Counting down from 10 to 1 without stopping. A stream of flame like from an industrial torch. Damage. 8,000. Boss, HP, 161,900. Minsu strikes the right knee again. The boss drops to one knee. Ha-joon sees a window, literally, in the data stream. A hidden line in the boss's parameters. Core, location, chest, depth, 30 centimeters, defense, obsidian armor, penetration, requires a hit with piercing damage over 5,000 while armor is weakened to 0%, current armor integrity 88%. The armor weakens with every hit to the same spot. Ha-joon speaks into his headset. Everyone, chest, hit only the chest. One spot. Non-stop, the team repositioned. Charon struck the chest. Sixth combo. Again. Yuna shot at the chest. Minsu struck the chest with his shield. Monotonous, rhythmic. Like a blacksmith's hammer, the armor cracked. 88, 72, 55, 40. The boss roars. It strikes all around itself. Wave of destruction. Soyon pulls Minsu back. Minsu gets up, holds on. Another blow to the chest. 30, 20, 10, 0. The armor shatters. The core is exposed. A black crystal the size of a fist pulsing with red light. Ha-joon needs a hit with piercing damage over 5,000. Charon, her sixth combo at max power deals 4,800. Not enough. Yuna, fire stream at full power. 3,800. Not enough. Minsu, shield. 2,100. No. None of them can break through on their own, but together. Ha-joon calculates, if Chai-rin strikes at the same time as Yuna's stream, synergy, physical and magical damage to a single point in a single second. Combined multiplier. The system shows 1.4 when two different types of damage hit simultaneously. 4,800 plus 3,800 is 8,600. Multiplied by 1.4 is 12,040. More than enough. Ha-joon gives the order. Chae-rin, Yuna, simultaneous strike to the core. On my count. 3, 2 seconds. The boss rises. One arm reaches out toward them. 2. Minsu steps between the boss and the team. Shield. The boss's hand strikes the shield. Minsu slides back a meter, holds. Defense rating 81%. Another jump. 1. Charon leaps forward. The sword glows blue with speed. Sixth combo. Full power. All speed. All the pain that is no more. Yuna opens her palms, counting down from 10 in her head. The fire flows in a steady stream. Steady, controlled, all of it. 2 strikes hit the core simultaneously. Light, sound, an explosion. The crystal shatters. The boss freezes. His body cracks from the center to the edges. The black stone crumbles. The association director's face breaks into pieces and falls to the floor. The dust settles. Science. Balfiance Nakrins. Across Seoul, a live broadcast plays on every screen. 12 million people watch as 5 people stand in an empty hall over a pile of black stone, breathing heavily. Ha-joon stands in the center. His hands are down. The interface in front of his eyes flashes. A new message. The dungeon has been cleared. User rank updated. AS John Ha-joon. S rank. He doesn't look at the message. He looks at the drone camera hovering above him. He knows that Choi Gonju is watching him through this camera. The association director, the former administrator, the man who created this dungeon. Ha-joon raises his right hand. He opens the system interface, not for himself, for the camera. For the first time in the system's history, he does this so that everyone can see the window. Blue lines of code light up in the air. The broadcast picks it up. Screens all over Seoul light up. On the Gangnam Tower, at the COEX shopping center, at subway stations, lines of code, parameters, formulas, balance sheets, the entire world of hunters turned inside out. People on the streets stop. They look up. They don't understand what they're seeing, but they sense that the world has just changed. Ha-joon looks into the camera. He speaks calmly. I am the developer, and the patch is out. The glove on his right hand tightens. Sol freezes. That night, the association grants him official S-rank status. Ha-joon's team becomes the youngest S-rank team in Korea. Hana, who had been maintaining communication from the surface, descends into the dungeon an hour after the sweep. With 3 laptops, she collects data from the boss's body. Every shard. Every fragment. Evidence. For the next step, Amanda Ryan from the Hunter Association of America flies to Seoul. 3 days later, she watched the broadcast from her office in Washington. The guy from Seoul who cleared the Zero dungeon, the first in 20 years. Her brother was one of the 16. She drops everything and flies across the ocean. Ha-joon meets her at the office in Hongdae. Amanda speaks in broken Korean, doesn't bow, and calls him simply Ha-joon. She wants answers. He gives her one. He opens the system. He reconstructs her brother's final battle in the Zero dungeon using archived data, second by second, through log analysis. For the first time in 10 years, she sees how it all happened. No speculation, no theories. Facts, numbers, the final minutes of a man who fought to the end. Amanda watches, for a long time, in silence. Then she cries, as she has never cried before, and she stays. 6 desks in the office in Hongdae, a coffee machine, a whiteboard on the wall, the entire team. Soyon by the window, Chaerin at a desk with a sword under her chair. Yuna, wearing headphones, is drawing something in a notebook. Minsu in the corner, silent. Hana behind 3 laptops. Amanda on the phone with Washington, and Ha-joon in the center, not the strongest, not the smartest, not the bravest, but the one without whom the room would fall apart. In a year, the hunt for Cho Gonju will begin. In a year and a half, the truth about the Zero Dan will be revealed. In 2 years, Ha-joon will meet him face to face, not a maniacal villain. A weary man who, 20 years ago, received the same system and decided he knew better than anyone how to save the world. For 20 years, he's been weeding people out so no one would become like him, because he was afraid, not of people, of the system. He knew it wasn't made for humans, that someone had launched the world of hunters as a game. And that if a second developer appeared, he would want to find the one who launched the server. And then everything would change. Choi Gonju didn't want things to change. He wanted to control, to hold on. Ha-joon will show him another way. He won't destroy the system. He'll rewrite it, make it open, for everyone, for every hunter who has an ability. The end of the era of solitary chosen ones. The beginning of an era where everyone can see their stats. Everyone can understand their skill. Everyone can find a coach who will show them their own power. But that will be in 2 years. Right now, Ha-joon is sitting in the kitchen of his apartment in Mapo. Mom is frying eggs outside the window. Seoul is ablaze with lights. There are 6 plates on the table. Mom sets out a 7th. She's used to it. Every evening, someone from the team drops by for dinner. Today, it's Yuna and Minsu. Yuna argues with Minsu about who's going to wash the dishes. Minsu stays silent. Yuna says silence means agreement. Minsu puts on his headphones. Yuna says headphones mean agreement too. Ha-joon sits and watches them. He watches his mom at the stove. He looks at the photo of Ji-hyun on the shelf. He gazes at the city outside the window. Not a single gate opens over the city this evening. A single gate for the first time in 20 years. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe the patch has already started working. Ha-joon finishes his kakoku karkar on kafai. He takes a plate. He goes to wash the dishes himself because the legendary S-rank hunter can kill a dungeon boss with a single shot but can't get 2 girls to wash their own mugs. Mom looks at him and smiles. He's home. Finally,